whatever your day holds. You need a breakfast that helps you get up and go. Up.
And go, go, go.
Up.
And go.
A delicious breakfast shake made with oats and milk. High in fibre, high in protein, high in calcium. Start right with Up and Go. The official breakfast partner of British Swimming. Find us in the cereal aisle.
SIM-only plans? There are always so many tempting options. So you jump headfirst into a long contract, which keeps you locked in for 12 months.
Somebody let me out!
At Lebara, we offer great value plans and total flexibility. You can get 10 gigs of data, unlimited UK minutes and texts, and 100 international minutes for just £10 a month. And you can change or cancel anytime.
Now I feel free!
Buy now at lebara.co.uk.
Attention please. Here's something I bet you didn't know. Not all supplements are created equal. At HealthSpan, our omega-3 oil is sustainably sourced from the South Pacific Ocean. We find our turmeric in the southern slopes of India. And our cod liver oil comes from the cold, crisp seas off Greenland. We work hard to seek out the best ingredients for our supplements, because that's the HealthSpan way. We're healthspan.co.uk. Vitamins and supplements in-store or direct to your door.
The latest in tech suit innovation. Frictionless fiber construction. Surface lift technology. ENDO compression cage. Seamless exo shell. Tier Vinzo. Battleborn.
Very good morning to you. It's Sunday morning and it's a lovely sunny day here in Glasgow. We're at Tollcross International Swimming Centre and this is the final day of the British Swimming Glasgow Meet 2021, our final set of finals. We had heats last night, finals in the morning as we've been doing all this weekend. I'm Duncan McKinnell and I'm joined today by Chris Ferber in the commentary position. Chris, the National Performance Director at British Paraswimming. Very good morning to you, Chris.
Yeah, good morning to you too. Thanks so much for having me. It's fantastic to be here in Tollcross again. Obviously, venue for our 2015 World Championships, which were brilliant, and the Commonwealth Games back in 2014. So fantastic to be back in Glasgow and at this amazing facility for this event this weekend.
And an important meet for the para swimmers as well as for the able-bodied swimmers, this one. So from a paras perspective, tell us why this meet matters.
Yeah, really important. Obviously, we're in the same situation as the Olympic swimming team. It's been very, very difficult for us to train and to get racing in. We've had a lot of races cancelled over the last 18 months. And as we build up to the Paralympic Games, it's just really important to have that opportunity for the guys to go through their dress rehearsals, to really practice what they're doing, that mental preparation for an event, and to just fine tune before we get into the games. And what I especially like here is, whilst at the Paralympic Games we won't be having heats in the evening and finals in the morning, we'll be having it the traditional way around, if you like. It's just an opportunity to test that resilience and to think a little bit more about your processes and to challenge yourself. And it's good to see the guys thinking really hard about that and just getting themselves ready for what we know is going to be quite a demanding environment when we get to Tokyo.
Yes, so most of the top para swimmers in the UK are here, and we'll see some of them during this session. Here's the lineup. We start off with women's 1500 freestyle. 5 swimmers will go in that. Follow that with a parallel program between the men and the women with butterfly 50s, 400 free, 100 backstroke, 200 breaststroke, and we finish off with 100 freestyle. One of the things that strikes me on that is there's a few brave ladies who are coming out of the 1500 freestyle, going through a few finals in 50s and then straight back in for a 400 freestyle. Well, you have to admire their commitment to do that, Chris.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, I think the 1500 freestyle is an incredible test of endurance, and certainly not one you recover from very, very quickly if you get fully embedded into it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they can bounce back after that.
Assuming they all make an appearance, of course. Maybe they'll decide that discretion is the better part of valor on that. 400 freestyle, though, an important one for the para swimmers. Got two very talented S6s and S9 Tony Shaw. Talk about that race, particularly that one, Maisie and Ellie Simmons.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, the 400 freestyle and the S6 classification's been one where GB's been dominant for some time now, with Ellie's performances going back to Beijing in 2008. But you know, the S6 classification is really changing now, and a lot of new swimmers coming into the sport. It's great to have Maisie coming through and doing so well, and certainly, you know, Ellie Simmons' influence on achondroplasic and dwarf athletes coming into swimming has been incredible, and we now have almost an embellishment and riches in that area. But the times are moving on incredibly quickly now in that classification. So another great opportunity for them to work on their preparation here, to work on their pacing of that event as we build up to Tokyo.
Then in the able-bodied event in the 400 free, it's an important race, I would think, for Holly Hibbert. She'll be wanting to post a strong time, I think, as the Olympic selectors start to finalise their team.
Yeah, it's a final opportunity for swimmers here to make it onto that Olympic team, and what a strong Olympic team it's going to be. You know, we saw the performances a couple of weeks ago in Budapest, which were just incredible. So, yeah, best of luck to those swimmers that are still looking to post consideration times for selection for the Olympics.
Swimmers are out for our first event. As I said, it is the 1500 freestyle. So it'll be 30 lengths of the pool. And that's the lineup for you. They're all present at the blocks. Amber Keegan goes for the City of Sheffield in lane 2. Lauren Wetherill of Ellesmere College in 3. Her teammate Fleur Lewis in 4. Emily Clark of Loughborough University in 5. Ella Dyson of Wickham District goes in lane 6. Just checking on the clock. We're, I think, slightly early going, but well, we'll not cavil over a minute. But the whistle's gone and we are up and running. So the women's 1500 freestyle, fastest entry time here 16:43, goes up to 17:08. New event, of course, in the Olympic program, the women's 1500 freestyle, and I guess one that we treat as a work in progress in Britain. Would that be fair?
Oh yeah, I think so for sure. But I mean, we do have some fantastic distant freestylers, you know, in our ranks. We have obviously he's here this weekend, but Graham Smith, who is our national centre coach in Manchester, Scottish athlete who obviously won a bronze medal in '96, I think, in the 1500 freestyle. Takes a very special kind of mindset, I think, to be a 1500 freestyle. You know, the yardage required in training, the dedication, the ability to focus on your technique for over 15 minutes for the boys and longer for the women. It is very, very admirable.
So coming up to the 100, and it's pretty tight at this stage. Touching first, Ella Dyson, 1:04.49. So this will be about managing the pacing through here. That's the Wickham swimmer. And started very nicely in lane 6.
Yeah, it's so important not to overcook the first 400 metres in the 1500 freestyle. Got to make sure that you go out on that pace that you know you're comfortable with and you know is within yourself. But then at the end of the day, it's a race as well, and you're obviously looking around, seeing who's left and right of you, and wondering whether you can just tease out a little bit more and go with somebody else. But you know, if you spend your pennies in the first half of this race, you know, you certainly have to pay them back with interest in the second half.
So we'll see whether Ella's managing this. Of course, the other issue, I guess, is just the time that they've had in the pool, and these distance swimmers just need lots and lots of time in the pool, don't they? And the question will be, have they had the chance to do that?
Yeah, certainly that base level of endurance conditioning. There is only one way to build that, and there are no shortcuts. It is about yardage in the pool and that training consistency. And that's just what's been so hard during the coronavirus lockdowns. Certain swimmers have been able to continue with consistent training under the elite sport guidance, and we're very, very grateful for the ability to do that. But for others, it's been in and out of the water. It's been challenging getting pool time. Obviously, there's been different restrictions across the different nations, Scotland, England, and Wales. So, there's just that consistency isn't there for some people in order to prepare for an event like this.
Well, these girls going nicely. It was a 68 roughly for the second 100, and we'll see whether they can hold to that pace. We'd be looking for something around 3:20 at this next split if they're maintaining that pace. Still Ella Dyson from Emily Clark, so lane 6 and lane 5, and then over in lane 2, Amber Keegan. 3:20.82, so that is managing the 68 again.
Efficiency, of course, so important here. It's about the human body isn't really designed to swim up and down a swimming pool. It's designed to walk and run. So the neurological adaptation of swimming freestyle is so important. And again, with that lack of consistency on training caused by the breaks in during lockdown, that efficiency for some of these swimmers is just really difficult to come by. And that's so important with a race of this distance.
They all do seem to have settled into a nice rhythm here. Still, of course, fairly early days, and we'll see whether that can hold through another 1,120 odd meters. Six meters or so from first to fifth at the 400. 4:29.22, so again just over a 68. So that pace is being held pretty well. Just signs maybe Emily Clark closing the gap a little bit on Ella, and Amber Keegan, City Sheffield swimmer. Two more experienced swimmers, I guess, Amber and Emily, 24-year-olds. The others quite a bit younger. Ella only 17.
Yeah, Emily, you can really see that, what I was talking about there, that efficiency at distance per stroke. Lovely long freestyle reach. So efficient in the early stages of this race, and she might be sat in second place at the moment, but she looks well positioned on the shoulder of Ella.
So we'll see whether at some point, if she's going to make a move, she'll make it, but maybe not until the second half, and maybe around 1,000 meters perhaps, we'll see. But Ella still holding that lead of a meter or so. 5:37.73. So she is pacing very consistently. 68 again. Faster stroke rate than Emily. Maybe that will tell as time goes on. We'll see. Let's not do her down. She's still leading. In fact, she's leading by a little bit more now. I think up to nearly a body length. Still Amber Keegan in third place, and the two Ellesmere College girls will no doubt have done this together in training time and time again, and they are side by side in lanes 3 and 4. Lauren Wetherill and Fleur Lewis.
Yeah, it's so interesting, that debate around stroke rate. Yeah, it's so individual to each athlete, and you have to get the balance right of the rate that works for you and your biomechanics. So it's very difficult to read in too much into someone's rate watching them swim. But you're right. The discernible difference here between Emily and Ella on their stroke rate.
suppose it's a trade-off, isn't it, between frequency and power, if you like, because the slower stroke rate, you've obviously got to put more power into each stroke to maintain the same speed. So
Fleur Lewis just starting to make a move. She was sat in 5th place, but she's starting to come through.
yep,
She's going to touch in 4th here this time.
Yep, up alongside Amber Keegan. It's quite nice that we're able to keep all 5 swimmers nicely in shot here. Quite often by this time in a distance event, they're scattered around the pool and you can only see 1 or 2 swimmers, but no, we've got good shots of all 5. We'll see whether that gets maintained. One perhaps who is in trouble of just getting dropped would be Lauren Wetherell in lane 3. She's still only 6-7 meters back from the leader, which in context of this is not too much. 7:55.28, so maybe just a sign that we're slipping to about 69 rather than 68 mid. Keep an eye on that, whether the pace is starting to drop. Would be no great surprise, I guess, if it did. Also, looks like the 2 leaders, Ella and Emily, are just opening up a bit of a gap on the other 3 with, as you said, Chris, Fleur Lewis now taking up that 3rd spot and perhaps looking to try and bridge that gap.
I think the mindset of swimming finals in the morning is really interesting and really challenging. I think what's interesting today on the final day is that your finals is your finals. There's nothing to come after them. But in the previous days of this meet, swimmers have been swimming finals in the morning and then having to refocus on a different event for heats in the evening. And that creates quite a different challenge from what we're traditionally used to when it comes to, right, well, I've got that event on that day, and once I go to bed that night, that event is done and I move on to the next one. And I really like that. I like being able to challenge athletes in that way. I think it creates resilience, it creates coping mechanisms that stand you in good stead when the pressure is really on. It creates more choice in athletes' minds, and I think that's really important. So I really like this format. I think it's challenging and it brings something new, something different for the athletes to learn from.
Yes, the assumption was always that it was about the mentality about swimming a heat in the evening and then moving on to swim the final in the morning, but it's also, as you say, about swimming a final in the morning and then starting to focus on a different event to swim well in the evening. And I hadn't really thought about that, I must admit, but that's probably as important as psychological thing to get into your mind as the morning final is.
Yeah, definitely. And sports like that, sport throws challenges our way that we need to cope with and deal with and have good coping mechanisms for. And again, that's why I think that's really important. Like I said, the para swimmers going to the games won't have to face that. They'll have heats in the morning and finals in the afternoon. But in terms of their preparation, to be able to come here and have that environment where they do need to kind of engage brain a little bit more, think about process, it can only stand us in good stead.
So there's definitely now 2 at the front, and then Fleur Lewis sort of in the middle between the 2 behind her.
Yeah, Fleur made a move, didn't she, over that last kind of 200 meters, and be interested to see if she had to dig quite deep in order to do that, or whether that was just a part of the race strategy that she had.
Yeah, she's about 3.5 seconds back, so we'll keep an eye on that and see whether she can whittle that down. She's still got plenty of time to bring it back.
Emily Clark starting to come through.
Yeah, it does feel like that, doesn't it? She's now just about alongside Ella Dyson, and the 2 of them are going to turn pretty much exactly together. Let's have a look. There's 700ths between them at that turn. Still Ella just with the touch.
Yeah, and Ella's just getting a little bit more off the wall than Emily. So she's just coming up that kind of 30, 40, 50 centimetres ahead each time, with Emily then kind of clawing it back in the free swimming section.
So she's been holding that 69, so we were on 68s, we're now on 69s. We have been for probably about 300 metres. So Let's just see, for the first time, Emily Clark there getting the touch that time by 1300s. The gap about, just looking at my maths, about 3.3, I think. The Fleur's just taken a couple of tenths out of the leading pair. So she's still in there with a shout.
I love the tactics of this event. It's so fascinating to watch because, you know, what do you do now? Do you try and break your opponent by sticking in, you know, a fast 150, fast 200, or just upping the pace a little bit? Do you hold where you feel comfortable and see if you've got it in the, you know, in the last 100, maybe the last 50? The tactics are fascinating, and the psychology that's involved also really, really interesting.
I suppose it's a bit like the athletics distance people, isn't it? Have you got that back end speed, or have you got to break your opponent before you get to the point where they can use their back end speed? And it's the same here, I would guess. That
yeah, totally. And you know, the sport that I started in was cycling, and road cycling has the same types of concepts. You know, you're using the psychology, you're using your physiology, and the gifts that you've been given to try and win the race as best as possible. And it's just fascinating to see how those tactics play out in the water.
Yes, he did just think for a moment when they went through that last turn that perhaps Emily was going to open up a bit of a gap, but once again Ella responds, and as they come now to 1200 meters, the gap is around about 3/10.
Fleur Lewis still doing incredibly well in third there. She's not far down at all, and it's not an unassailable lead that these two have over the last part of this race.
Yep, 3.4 at that last split. So it's been that sort of, you know, bit over between 3 and 3.5 for quite a while now. So pacing very much at the same speed, but well, if she has the back end speed, then she could certainly feature. I think we could safely say we are down to 3 contenders now. There's Amber Keegan coming into shot up on the far side. You can see there that Lauren Wetherill is a fair bit behind her. So still plenty to play for in this one. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to see anything like the 16:04 that would be required for Olympic consideration, but this is about a race now. This is about Ella and Emily battling it out between them, and then Fleur trying to get with them.
16:04 is an outstanding world-class time, isn't it?
The gap that Fleur is behind now is only just over 3 seconds now, so she is slightly clawing it back, and still Ella Dyson will not give up on this one, sticking like glue to Emily Clark.
Yeah, this is fascinating now because Fleur is definitely coming back into this now, and you can throw a blanket over the first two at the moment.
Yes, suddenly that gap was just over 3 seconds. It's now 2.2, so she took 8/10 off that last length. She's not got too many lengths still to do it in, though, so she'll have to move pretty much now. They're going to hear the bell at this turn. So if she is to make that move, really it's got to start coming now.
Yeah, this is a fascinating race. It comes down to the last 100 meters and who's got anything left in the tank, whose efficiency is going to maintain, whose distance per stroke can stay up there as people start to make a move. And Emily Clark just starting now half a body length to break away from Ella Dyson.
Yes, she's by no means done and dusted, and Fleur is continuing to bring that gap down, but she's going to need a mighty sprint in the last 50. So for the first time there is a bit of a gap appearing now between Emily Clark and Ella Dyson, with Fleur Lewis now just 1.7 back on the leader. So What's the sprint now in this last length? Half a length to go, and it's looking like Emily Clark has timed this well. One last push from Ella Dyson to try and get back to her. She is working really hard, and she is coming back a little bit at Emily Clark as we come towards the final 5 metres. But surely Emily Clark is going to hold on to this and take a really well-worked win in a time of 17:05.25. So not at the time she was entered in, but you probably wouldn't really expect that in the climate that we're in. So excellent swim, really good way to start off the final morning swimming. 17:06.31 for Ella Dyson, 17:07.41 for Fleur Lewis, who really pushed it on in those last few hundred metres, but just couldn't quite get back to the leading group. Amber Keegan in fourth, 17:23 and 17:29 for Lauren Wetherell. So a nice, tasty race to get us started.
Yeah, that was good. I really enjoyed that. Great pacing from all the women there, and Emily Clark. You know, just showing a bit of class. We mentioned her stroke efficiency early on in the race, and it certainly stood her in good stead as she came into the last 400 metres and battled all the way. Ella Dyson, Emily Clark taking that first race out this morning.
And showing her experience, maybe, you know, 24-year-old, she's been around the block, she's in the performance program at Loughborough, and for Ella, good learning experience for the 17-year-old. And I think she'll have taken a lot from that race in terms of how she swam it. I think she'll be pretty proud of how she swam it.
Yeah, certainly fantastic performance this morning. It's so difficult to get up, and you know, it's early on a Sunday morning here in sunny Glasgow, and to be able to perform like that is incredible.
So now we've got an interesting one. We've got the women's 50 butterfly coming up, and Leah O'Connell is going to have to swim this on her own. So how will this work for Leah? What will her objectives be in this single swim?
Yeah, Leah's a new athlete to the para program. She's so new, in fact, actually, she doesn't have an international classification as yet, but swimming in the S7 classification for us, based at the National Centre in Manchester, working with former Paralympic champion Jonathan Fox, who coaches there, and as we mentioned before, Graham Smith, the Olympic medalist. She's been training really hard, balancing her studies and her training, but as so often happens for the para guys, when they come to a meet like this, they're required to perform in the water on their own, which is always incredibly challenging, to get the motivation, to get the pacing, to have that race. But it's just something they have to get used to, because it's a feature of para swimming. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Leah can do this morning.
Yeah, I'm hearing that COVID has slightly got in the way of the classification process and verifications, and that's been a bit troublesome for some of the athletes. Must be a bit stressful as well, I would guess, just to have that uncertainty around you.
Yeah, definitely. It's been incredibly difficult for the athletes, and the World Para Swimming, our international federation, made the right decision that they needed to increase the robustness of the testing, and everybody needed to go back through that process. And obviously, that in normal circumstances that would have been fine, and that would have worked out great. But obviously, with the amount of races we've lost over the last 18 months, it's just made things incredibly difficult, and it is very, very stressful for athletes who are trying to prepare for a Tokyo Paralympics, but still don't know, themselves perhaps where they sit in the classification structure, but also don't know who they're going to be racing against, because those other athletes are still to be classified, and new athletes can move into classifications and out of classifications. It's just one of those unique things about parasport that, for me, makes it really, really interesting. And I've worked in parasport now for basically 20 years, and I absolutely love it. I love the way that it works. I think it's brilliant. But this year it's been challenging with the classification, the way it's been.
So Leah from Camden, Swiss, will go on her own in lane 4, as you said, S7, pending ratification of that. Did a 39.26 last night. So see whether she can move on from that. Second in the British Para International in Sheffield. And she she will be just focusing on what she can do. Nobody around her to worry about. It's just all about speed. So the single arm stroke, and she comes down.
Yeah, she's allowed to swim single arm fly here as long as she keeps her shoulders square in the water. And the rules don't allow a drop shoulder on the other side, so she needs to keep her shoulders square.
That must be quite tough to do, I would think, because the natural movement of the other arm will tend to move your body like that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely right. It's very, very difficult, but we've got to make sure we maintain the integrity of the event, and allowing the drop shoulder will.
So here she comes. I think she is inside her heat swim. Yes, she is, 39.05. So a couple of tenths knocked off from last night to this morning, so she's managed that process pretty well.
Yeah, she's been able to move that on tonight. Her best is 38.2, but she's been able to move that on from heats to final. That's exactly what we're looking for. And you know, she's just in that point of her career where she's made the move to the national centre now. She's trying to adapt to a different style of training, as well as being away from home, coping with her impairment, and you know, working at university. So we've got high hopes for Leah in the future. I think she's definitely one on our radar for Paris 2024.
Yes, so we wish her good luck with her career as she takes it forward. Am I right in saying that the S7s, that 50 is part of the para program for the S7s, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It changes all the time. You know, we have 146 events in the Paralympic Games. It's quite funny. People always expect me to kind of know all the.
Well, of course.
What event is what, and what event is? There's 146 of them, and they change every single time. But yes, the S7 fly is an event.
It's got to keep performance directors on their toes.
Yeah, definitely. We've lost every other 50 freestyle as well. So they cut out a number of 50 freestyles. So, but it's not the same in men's and women's. So. Again, it's just one of those unique things about para swimming that just keeps us on our toes with so many events and then changing from games to games.
So you can see the A finalists coming on to the starting blocks now. And the lineup here, Maisie Elliott will go for Plymouth Leander in 1. Yasmin Perry of Aberdeen Performance in 2. Katie Robertson there in the red for Edinburgh University goes in 3. Kiana McInnes there with the black cap goes in lane 4 for the University of Stirling. Then see in the blue Lucy Grieve of South Ayrshire. Sophie Freeman of Plymouth Leander in 6. Kate Mills of Loughborough University in 7. And Rebecca de Torres of City of Cardiff in lane 8. And Kiana McInnes, fastest qualifier, 27.02. Mainly think of her as a 200 fly swimmer, so it's interesting to see her going to this shorter distance today. Certainly has swum pretty well so far this season, striking best time. She might just be eyeing the Scottish record held by Sian Harkin back in the 2014 Commonwealth Games. She wasn't far away from that on 27.02. The Scottish record stands at 26.75. So we'll see whether she can get anywhere close to that. Got Scots either side of her as well, Katie Robertson and Lucy Grieve. So trying their best to show what the Scots ladies can do in the sprint fly. So away they go. A good start from Lucy Grieve in lane 5 in the blue cap, and now Kiana McInnes starting to motor in the middle and just edging, I think, ahead of the others now. Katie Robertson on the other side, and then the others in a line, but it does look like McInnes has got the advantage in lane 4 by about a metre or so. She's going to take this pretty comfortably for a one-length race. 27.27, so very similar, just slightly slower than she was last night. She might be a bit disappointed in that, I would guess, but good solid win though, well clear of the field. Lucy Grieve taking 2nd, and Yasmin Perry coming in to take 3rd.
Yeah, 4/10, decent winning margin there, but I think you're right. I think probably slightly disappointed to not move the time on from last night. But it's, again, we said before, it's a learning experience racing this way round. Every time you race, you're going to learn something new about your preparation and be able to tweak that for the next time you do it.
And of course, you can't forget that these swimmers have had a really busy program. Obviously, they tapered for trials, put everything into London. They then went to Europe, performed spectacularly well, and now they're here, the last event before Tokyo for those that are on the plane. And so, yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, no, heavy training load as well for most of these swimmers, and a heavy race program, because just need those races in your arms and legs. So taking every opportunity to stand on the block, to do the routine, the call room routine, to get your mental preparation in check, and just using every available opportunity, even if it's not an event that that you're particularly accustomed to, or might not be your favorite. Just getting that opportunity to go through those processes again and again and again to fine tune.
So we've had the women, now it'll be the men, and we've got some stars in this one. Got a para star going in lane 1, Stephen Clegg, the world record holder on S12, so we'll keep an eye on that one. That record 25.24, so wasn't a million miles away from that. 25.36 last night.
Yeah, and he's actually been quicker himself. I think his PB is around 25.0. For this. So this is where it gets interesting for me, because obviously you've got some fantastic athletes in this: Ben Proud, Adam Barrett, Jacob Peters, unbelievable butterflyers. But my eyes are always going to be tuned on lane 1 and watching Stephen in lane 1.
Right, you watch lane 1, I'll watch lanes 2 to 8, okay? Is that a deal?
That's the deal, that sounds good to me.
So yes, so Stephen Clegg from Edinburgh University, the S12 swimmer, will go in lane 1. Dan Jones of Swansea University will go in 2. Jacob Peters of Bath National Centre in 3. Ben Proud, Plymouth Leander in lane 4. 5 is Adam Barrett from Wickham District. Gregor Swinney of City of Glasgow is in 6. Cameron Brooks-Clark of City of Sheffield in 7. And Cole Hewitt will go for Swansea University in lane 8. So Ben Proud has the 50 freestyle Olympic consideration time and was named in the team in the first set of announcements after the trials. Chose not to do the 50 fly, where he had previously has been a world champion. Didn't do that in the Europeans in Budapest, but here he is doing it in Glasgow. So 23.84 was the time he did last night.
Yeah, what a performance that was from Ben to take that world title as well in the 50 fly. That is one Olympic event that I definitely had my eye on. It was a brilliant swim that by Ben, and so delighted for what he's been able to do in his career so far.
He is absolutely electric off the blocks, isn't he? So it'd be very interesting to see his start here and just how hard he can go in that first 15 metres. Certainly would fancy him as the clear favourite here, although he was only 2/10 ahead of Adam Barrett in last night's heats, and Jacob Peters not far back from that either. See Ben in the black cap there, up onto the block in lane 4. Beside him, Adam Barrett in the blue, and on the other side in the white is Jacob Peters. Up at the top there, Stephen Clegg that we talked about in the red cap.
Yeah, Stephen Clegg fresh off the breaking the world record in 100 fly at British Paraswim International meet earlier this year.
So it is Ben Proud then, maybe by about half a metre, and it's Jacob Peters who's the one who's giving you a bit of a race in lane 3. These two clear of the rest of the field, pushing hard as we come into the wall, and Ben Proud's not got this all his own way at all, but he does get the touch in 23.65, so another one who takes his time on from heats to finals by a couple of tenths. 23.87 for Jacob Peters. He also improves around about 3/10 improvement for him. Adam Barrett taking third. Looking at Stephen Clegg's time, 25.59. So again, just slightly off what he did last night, but yeah, pretty close to it.
Yeah, a couple of tenths from where he was last night. But again, he's had a big heavy race program this week in heavy training at the moment. So I don't think he's going to be. Too disappointed by that.
And clearly for Tokyo, his focus will be 100 fly, although he's got opportunities, I would think, in other strokes as well.
Yeah, 100 back, 100 free. 100 fly is definitely where his focus is at the moment. FDS 12 classification for visually impaired athletes is incredibly competitive, you know, and getting faster and faster all the time. Stephen doing ever so well to keep up with him, and he's now, you know, one of the best fly swimmers in para swimming in the S12 classification. So great to see him go on. He is another swimmer that needs to have his classification confirmed, which we're hoping to do with him in the next month or so. Once that's out of the way, then he should be a shoo-in for being named on the team.
There's some dynasty, the Cleggs, in terms of athletics for Libby, and got a brother who's a Paralympic medalist.
Yeah. James was a swimmer on the program when I started back in 2013. Came to the World Championships in Montreal in 2013. I really enjoyed working with James, and equally enjoy working with Stephen. And like you say, Libby's been doing an incredible job within the athletics team. Just taken a bit of time off recently to have a child. I know she's really enjoying, but yeah, what a family.
Yeah. So this is a big one from a para perspective. The two S6s. Is Maisie Summers-Newton in 5, Tony Shaw will go in 4, and Ellie Simmons will go in 3. So Tony Shaw swimming S9, and Ellie and Maisie S6. So again, there's going to be a big variation in time. You would think Tony Shaw is going to be considerably faster than the two S6s, so she'll basically have to swim her own race over 8 lengths of the pool, and then the two S6s will want to run a good pace and they have a good race, hopefully.
Yeah, it's always a slight shame that they're not in lanes next to each other because of the spearhead formatting, but ultimately they do need to focus on their own race and their own pacing, because Maisie and Ellie do swim this race quite differently.
Tony was a silver medalist in the Worlds back in 2019.
Yeah, she had a brilliant World Championships in 2019, really breakthrough performance for her. Not too far off her personal best with that 4:44 last night. So again, be interested to see if she can move it on again here. Swimming out of Aberdeen at the moment, coached by Gregor.
Yep, Gregor McMillan. So they set off. So the heat time's 4:44 for Tony, 5:27 for Maisie, 5:28 for Ellie. So less than a second between the two S6s last night. The one who's off to the stronger start is Maisie Summers-Newton in lane 5. She's already a body length ahead of Ellie Simmons, and as you would expect, Tony Shaw pulling away from the two of them.
Ellie Simmons is such a racer, you know, we see this time and time again, that when she gets in and there's a race situation, particularly in those big races now, and she's just able to produce world-class performances over and over and over again. And someone who's been performing, you know, on the world stage now since 2008, she really is an incredible ambassador for our sport.
Yes, I was privileged to be in the crowd in 2012 in London when she absolutely brought the house down with a storming 200 IM gold medal. That was the one I saw her do. It was just fantastic. The London pool was absolutely packed, and the roof almost came off as she came down that last 50.
Yeah, one of my big disappointments that I never actually managed to get into the aquatic centre during the London Paralympics. I was stuck in the velodrome, but yeah, I'm told it was an incredible facility, and I've only ever seen it with the wings off it, so without those, you know, without that extra capacity in the crowd. But yeah, I think the atmosphere in there must have been electric, both for the Olympics and the Paralympics.
Yes, it certainly. But to me, it was particularly the Paralympics. Actually, it was a different atmosphere compared with the Olympics. Almost like it was a sort of everybody was part of the family. It felt like that, all really looking out for each other, and just that very nice feeling about the place.
Yeah, I mean, certainly London 2012 was a sea change moment for the Paralympic movement. It's the first time, ever that capacity crowds like that had been, at the Games, and the enthusiasm just around the Olympics and the Paralympics, it felt like an equal competition. And the impact I think it's had in this country on disability awareness, disability inclusion, it can't be measured. It is the impact it's had has been incredible, and certainly that's the beauty of the Paralympic movement. It can have such an impact on society, and we hope that in Tokyo we can have a similar impact again, and really drive another country forward towards better diversity and inclusion and equality.
So Tony 2:21 at the halfway mark. The camera focusing on the lead swimmer. I can tell you that there's still pretty much a race on between Maisie and Ellie. We'll see them come into shot as Tony comes down towards the 300. There they are. Maisie still with the advantage, but she's by no means away from Ellie. There's still a race to be had there.
She's holding on to that advantage that she almost established within the first 25 metres of the race, and it's not really changed. They're obviously swimming at the same rate, and now it'll be interesting to see if Ellie Simmons can claw her back over the last 150 metres.
So Tony 100 to go, turns in 3:33.96. So she's pacing around 1:12. You expect her maybe to be a bit faster than that down the final 100. 4:44 last night. I think she might just struggle to match that here, unless she can put in a really fast last 50 metres.
Still close between Maisie and Ellie, more or less the same body length advantage. And for Maisie as they go into the last 100.
Yeah, so just checking on the gap between them, 4:05.5 for Maisie, 4:08.2 for Ellie. So a bit more than 2.5 seconds between them. Again, we'll see them come into shot as we see Tony coming down her last length. And meets the girls coming the other way. And still it is that, 3-4 metres between them. Once Tony gets to the end, I'm sure the camera will focus back onto the two S6 girls.
10 to go for Tony.
So just into the 440s. 4:44.38, so pretty much bang on what she did last night. Good consistent stuff.
I think she picked up really well in that last 100 there, which is great to see at the back end of what's been a challenging week.
So here come the S6s then. So Maisie a 5:27 last night, Ellie a 5:28. We don't have a running clock to help us here, but 15 metres to go for Maisie. She's certainly going to win the battle of the S6s. But what sort of time can she pull this one in on? Let's have a look. 5:28.5, so a second away from last night's time. 5:31.95 for Ellie Simmons. So all three swimmers then just slightly off last night's time. Tony not by much at all, the others by a second or two. Feelings about that, Chris?
Yeah, I think those are solid performances. Not near kind of world best as we would expect for the time of year and the type of training they're in. Some of our athletes have recently had their COVID jabs as well. With that announcement recently that all the athletes going to the games will be vaccinated. So you wonder if that is playing into the equation as well, because I don't know about anybody else, but I felt a little bit ropey the 24 hours after I had mine earlier in May.
Yep. So just catching up, I can tell you that Leah O'Connell, when she did the 50 fly, she got 649 para points for her time of 39.05. And Stephen Clegg's was 1,050. 25.59. Well, you can't complain with 1,050 para points, can you? That was very good stuff.
Anything over 900 is very good going.
So we'll get the point situation from that last race shortly. So we stick with 400 freestyle, and once again we're going to have a lone para swimmer having to do it all by himself over 8 lengths of the pool. That this time will be the University of Stirling's Ollie Carter. He swims S10. He's one that's been around, certainly in Scottish para circles, for a good number of years now. Started off in Fife with Carnegie and has been in Stirling for the last couple of years.
Women's 400 freestyle A final is the next event.
You're right, I'm forgetting about that. I'm so involved in my para swimmers that...
That's what we like to see.
Yeah, I'm not sure Holly Hibbert and co will be quite as enthusiastic about that. Yeah, so let's refocus here. It's been a long weekend, that's my excuse anyway, and I'm sticking to it.
It's always warm, it's always hot, isn't it, in a swimming pool? I used to think velodromes were hot, and we used to crank the temperature up in the velodrome to make the cyclists go faster, but then I started swimming and I was like, wow, it's hot and it's humid.
Yep, so the swimmers coming out. We had Fleur Lewis, who's back after that 1500. Ellesmere College Titan there, you're seeing Freya Colworth of Nova Centurion. Emily Clark back again as well from Loughborough University after that win in the 1500. Monique Olivier, the Luxembourg swimmer from Edinburgh University, goes in lane 5. There is Holly Hibbert of Bath University making her way to lane 4. Beatrice Farley of Plymouth Leander will be in 3. There's Lauren Wetherell, so another one. Still looking a bit red in the face, actually, Lauren, after that 1500. And Amber Keegan as well. She's looking ready and set and very businesslike there. She went up to the block. So, well, it would be interesting to see how the ones who were in that 1500 get on. But I think that's tough. I really do. I think that we need to have a word with the coaches there and say, hang on, are you being kind?
They literally got out of the water about 25 minutes ago, and they're back in for a 400 free.
Great grin there from Freya Colbert. She looks across to Fleur Lewis. Fleur maybe saying, why am I doing this? When did I think this was a good idea to enter the 1500 and the 400 in the same session? Let's see how they do. Holly Hibbert will be looking for a strong performance as well. European Championship finalist, winner in the British Trials. .405.96 is the Olympic consideration time. Holly was just a second or so off that in London. Would love to have that in the bag.
Some of those performances in London I thought were incredible. I mean, just fair play to the Olympic team. They got the preparation absolutely right, and had an amazing British Championships down at the London Aquatic Centre, and then they bounced on from that to the European Championships a couple of weeks ago. Just looking in great shape as a team, and it just shows you how kind of 1 or 2 good swims brings confidence to the team, and suddenly everybody feels like they can step up. And you know, since Bill Finesse and Chris Spice started in their roles, you know, I think you've just seen the Olympic team go from strength to strength, and there's just great depth there now.
Yeah, and great professionalism, I think, from our senior athletes. They're absolutely committed to what it is that they're about. 1:00.66, B. Varley making the early running here, 0.8 ahead of Holly Hibbert and Monique Olivier. It looks like it might be these three are going to contest it. Lauren Wetherell perhaps saved herself a bit because she was 5th out of the 5 in the 1500 freestyle, so maybe decided she wanted to keep something back for this 400.
It's self-preservation, I think that is.
And that's not a bad thing.
Definitely not.
So this looks like it could be another really fascinating women's, well, not distance race, middle distance race, I suppose, as Holly Hibbert now for the first time just hitting the front. And she'll, I think, be wanting to have a really strong second half this time. We'll see what the split is at halfway. She was just over the minute at the 100, and now 2:04.98. So around about 64 there. Certainly you would think that the 4:05.96 Olympic time will be a big ask from a 2:05 halfway split.
Certainly, yeah.
So I think now this is about winning the race and showing the selection team that she has what it takes to take it forward in Tokyo if she gets on the plane.
Holly's fairly recently moved to Bath, hasn't she? She was swimming in Stockport with Sean Kelly for a while, I remember. So, you know, when an athlete transfers to a new program like that, it definitely takes time for them to adapt to that new training program, and you have to give them opportunity to thrive in that new environment.
So 300 meters, and now she's well clear, about 4 meters clear in 3:08.63. Pick up the pace a little bit in that third 100, so people will like to see that. If you can really be strong in the second half of 400, it's definitely the things coaches like to see.
She's a world-class freestyler, Holly Hubbard, and she's really showing that here now by stretching away from the field.
So the race is on for second. Bea Varley, the early leader, has Monique Olivier now within reach of her. So she will be trying down this final length to hold off the Luxembourg girls challenge. But let's see what Holly can do down this last length. Can she really drive it on now? It is still Bea Varley holding second, but the lead is shrinking there. But with Holly up towards the final 5 meters, clock just coming up to 4:10, and brings it in 4:12.58. So a good 4 seconds faster than she was last night, so that's nice progression.
Second place for Bea Varley with 4:16.8. Monique Olivier 4:16.97 in third.
Yep, so all three of them improving from last night, particularly Bea Varley. She did a 4:19 last night, so that was a nice improvement from her, as well as from Holly. Monique Olivier 4:18.18 up to 4:16.97 as well. So that's the top three. It was a good tight race for fourth place. Freya Colbert and Lauren Wetherill just 100th apart. Maybe that's Freya able to sneak past as Lauren, of course, having had that 1500, and you can see maybe those 1500ers have just felt the pain there.
Yeah, cap doffed for swimmers swimming 400 after 1500.
Now we have Ollie Carter and the MC 400 men.
You can give him that wonderful big build-up that you gave him 5 minutes ago. You can give it him again now.
Yeah, University of Stirling guy, as I said. Learned his trade in Fife, the Kingdom of. Swimming S10, and he'll get to do it once these ladies leave the poolside. You've probably heard me talk about this before, but underneath the gallery that you're looking at, there is a very nice facility, 6 by 50 meter pool, which for this week we've split into 2 25 meter pools, and that's where they can do their swim downs and their preparations, strictly marshaled. Limits on how many can go in at any one time, when they can go in, how long they can stay in for. Is welcome to the modern world of post-COVID swimming. Hopefully we'll get back more to a normal situation over the next few months.
Yeah, but you know, you can see it changing all the time, can't you? You know, it just starts to relax off a little bit. It's been amazing to have juniors able to compete here over the last few days. That's great to see. Announcements just recently about the Festival of Swimming and what the home nations and British women are doing in the summer for those swimmers who haven't been able to train full time. So things just are starting to loosen up and move again in our sport, which is fantastic to see.
So here he is. He always wears that black and white cap when he comes out. That's his signature, I guess, and with the cans on over the top. So I guess Get himself organised and sorted.
Yeah, I think Ollie's moved really well in the last 12 months. I think he's, you know, he's really started to make a move and show what he's made of. But the S10 classification is just so challenging in para swimming. You know, this is the minimum impairment classification. Just recently, actually, controversially, we've lost Andre Brazil, who was one of the greatest S10 swimmers we've had, and he was found by the classification panel to be not eligible, so i.e. not kind of impaired enough to be in the S10 classification. But it's just it's just an outstanding classification with some brilliant swimmers in it, and Ollie's got his work cut out to be competitive at international level.
Yes, not the biggest athlete physically, so as well there'll be some big strong boys in the S10 classifications that he would have to compete against.
But moving well. Again, we see a swimmer in a para class that needs to swim in a race on their own. He can get his head down and focus and really try and deliver his best performance here.
So we saw Alea in the 50 doing it on her own, and of course effectively you say Tony Shaw was doing it on her own as well, she's well clear of the S6s. So it's a long race, isn't it, to do on your own the 400, because your mind can start playing tricks with you in the nearly 4.5 minutes that he's going to be swimming here. It's just got to keep that concentration all the way through.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one, isn't it? Because, you know, often we hear, oh, they're a racer, and you know they get in with the other people around them, and it lifts the level up. But we also see athletes that are fantastic in terms of just turning off from the outside distractions and just pacing an effort and delivering that effort to the best of their abilities. And that, you know, there are other sports, cycling time trial springs to mind for me, where that is the skill. You know, you are on your own, you have a distance to cover. It is not about racing, it is about measuring your effort. So very, you know, unique skills, and it'd be interesting to see how Ollie can do here.
So 102.97 at the 100. So breathing to his left. And seems to have set up to a nice rhythm, 136 there. So just over 33-second split.
Yeah, Ollie's got a PB of 4:19.21, which he actually posted at British Para Swimming International Meet in Sheffield in April. 4:25 in heats last night.
So we'll get a sense at the halfway point where he might be heading in terms of time. 2:10.59. So just under 68. So if he can keep that sort of pace, he could be there or thereabouts on his 4:25, you would think.
Yeah, I think so.
Of course, he'll have tapered for Sheffield. He won't have tapered for this.
No, and again, another athlete that's done a lot of races here this week. So as we get to the final session of the meet, fatigue probably kicking in. He'll be thankful if his coach is giving him a day off on Monday.
Knowing the Sterling crew, don't bank on it.
No, they'll be straight back in, won't they? Still only 21, so, you know, still opportunities for him to develop and improve over the next few years, and definitely a swimmer that we'll have our eye on from the world class program perspective.
So 100 to go at this turn. 3:18.39. Again, just under 68, so consistent pacing here. And now, well, maybe not in this length, but the next one, you would hope that he can just pick up the pace and come back in maybe a 65 or thereabouts. That would be nice.
One of the things we're really keen on at para swimming is thinking about opportunities for our swimmers. You know, we've had very successful talent transfer athletes in the past, and just this afternoon down in Leeds, there's the Para Tri World Series event happening. We're going to have Claire Cashmore, who's a former para swimmer, going up against Lauren Steadman. We've got Charlotte Henshaw as a a para-canoe, Jodie Cundy and Sarah Story went to paracycling. So always looking for those opportunities that might exist. You know, swimming athletes so well trained and so, you know, physically great condition. So they make great transition athletes if para-swimming perhaps isn't the opportunity for them.
It's that core underlying fitness, I guess, that they get from the swimming training. Certainly pushing it hard coming in, Ollie, and stops the clock in 4:26.93. So finished on a 68 as well, so didn't really find the ability to pick it up in that last 50 too much. So I guess that probably is about the tiredness and, you know, his last event of the meet. And yeah, so another day and it will come, and he'll get back, I'm sure, and improve on that 4:19 he did down in Sheffield.
Yeah, I've got no doubt on that.
We have the first of our B finals coming up now in the men's 400 freestyle. Keep me right, Chris, because I've been jumping all over the place so far this morning, but
no,
I think that's right.
You're spot on.
So we've B final followed by the A final. As far as the Olympics are concerned, we have one swimmer who has achieved the 400 free time. That's Kieran Bird for 3:46.78. We have Kieran scheduled to go in the A final, along with Luke Turley, Max Litchfield, Stephen Milne, all accomplished 400 freestylers. And we've got the B final, as I said before that, and some great swimmers there. We'll be keeping an eye on the two juniors as well there, Angus Allison and Ruben Visder, with their sights focused on Rome and the European Junior Championships. Got a good Sheffield contingent, four. In fact, half the field's going to be from Sheffield, so we'll see how they get on. We saw a strong Wickham swim earlier on from Ella Dyson, and her teammate will go in this B final, Josh Williams.
You might be aware, I certainly don't know what's the situation with kind of Commonwealth Games qualification for Scottish athletes. Is that begun yet?
So they've published the selection criteria, but I guess getting the serious times has not begun yet, as I understand it. I need to maybe double check that, but my understanding is it's not started yet, and it will focus in on performances next year.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think when we get to the point of, you know, the games team starting to get a little bit more settled, a bit more refined and defined, then, you know, naturally certain athletes' attention starts to turn towards Commonwealth Games. Certainly in a para program, you know, we've got some athletes now who will be strong representatives within our home nations, who are starting to think now, right, okay, well, how does my training adapt? How do I change my focus in order to achieve selection for one of the home nations for the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, which of course is in August next year.
Yeah, because lots and lots of big meets coming up in the next couple of years, with everything getting compressed with the Olympics, of course, and Paralympics a year later than they were meant to be. So World Paras, when's that scheduled?
Yeah, that's just been announced recently. It's going to be in Funchal on the island of Madeira, which is a beautiful island and a place that we've raced twice in the last few years. We raced Open Europeans there in 2016 and sent a small team this year to another Open Europeans. So that's going to be a big event for us in 2022. It's early in the calendar. It's in June, which for some of our athletes is going to create some challenges around educational commitments and things like that. It's likely that our trials will be quite early in the year as a result, but that's to make room for Commonwealth Games.
So they're not going to have a lot of time after the Paras, then, are they? No time out of the pool.
No, if you're cracking on, we just got to get back in and get going again. But I like that. I think that's good. You know, I think it's great to have that next focus on the horizon, and all great athletes need that next focus to keep them focused on what they're doing.
So let's just run through the lineup of the swimmers at the blocks here. We've got George Barber of City of Sheffield in 1, Reg Lloyd of University of Stirling in 2, Angus Allison of Warrender in 3, Josh Williams of Wickham District in 4, Will Riley of Bath University in 5, then 3 from City of Sheffield, Ruben Visder in 6, Ben Cope in 7, Adam Wilson in 8. So fastest time from last night's heats, Josh Williams, 4:00. So he has lane 4 in the white cap. Good start from Ben Cope in lane 7. He's going to lead them through the 50, ahead of the 2 in the centre lanes, Williams and Riley. 26.95, so the only one just to duck under the 27. Now they're moving up alongside him, particularly Williams. Reg Lloyd in the picture up in lane 2. But is Cope going to lead, or is it going to be Williams? I think it's going to be Williams. 56.64.
Yeah, just 4 tenths separating the first 3 at the moment, Williams, Riley and Cope.
And particularly these 2 in the centre, you think maybe are the ones who are going to push. Well, Riley making a bit of an early move there, has moved up. That's going out to the 150. That's an interesting tactic. Definitely feel like he made a push down that length.
He definitely picked up the pace in that 50. Again, that's where the psychological battle comes into play, and just trying to put some pressure on your opponent. Do they go with you? Do they maintain in that first 200 that rate and that rhythm that they'd agreed to do by their race strategy with their coach?
Yeah, my guess is that would have caught Josh Williams a bit by surprise then. He wouldn't have expected that to happen, but he's got plenty of time to respond to it. Still half the race to go. He's about 8 tenths back, 156.88, 157.64.
Josh is doing well here. Could be on for a sub 4 minute swim, which would be good.
Will Riley again pushing it down this length. Seems to like going in that direction. Back towards the turn end. Up in 3rd place is Reg Lloyd, just ahead of Angus Allison, one of the 2 juniors. I think he probably has already done enough to get on the plane to Rome. So this is a healthy lead now for Will Riley. That jump on the 100 to the 150 length has been consolidated into a lead now of, what, 2.5, 3 meters? 256.99 against 258.59. So Josh Williams has got some work to do. Pretty much bang on the minute splitting here for Will Riley.
Yeah, he's looking good here, Will Riley. I think this is going to be a good time for him.
Came in on a 3:55 that he did in London for 00 last night. He's certainly going to be starting with a 3, you would think. Whether he can get down to that 3:55, we'll see. Turns 3:26.45, so he'd have to come back in a 29.
It's close.
Could do that. Could definitely do that, I would think.
He's going well here.
Going to take the race comfortably in the end. Josh Williams will have to settle for 2nd. Reg Lloyd holding Angus Allison at bay for 3rd. So it looks like the order, although Angus is maybe just pushing back to challenge for 3rd, but this is Will Riley. Excellent stuff. Let's see what the time is. 3:55.56. I think he'll be highly pleased with that.
Yeah, that's a great swim from Will.
Very close to his London time. So go from a tapered time of 3:55 to an unrested time of 3:55. You really have to be highly delighted with that, I would have thought.
Yeah, Josh Williams on the 3:58.6 there as well. Good performances.
Yes, so he improved by a 2.5 from heats to finals. Angus Allison did come through and nick 3rd. Reg Lloyd maybe just running out of gas a little bit down that last length. Angus taking it from a 4:04 to a 4:03, and Reg from a 4:09 to a 4:03, so good progression from him as well.
I think Ben Cope showed really strongly in that first 100 as well, but obviously maybe that was part of a race plan or a tactic, because he ended up finishing 6th.
So 3:55.56. Good stuff there from Will Riley. Serves up a nice race to serve as an appetizer for the senior final that is to come. And we certainly have got some real talent in this one. I mentioned Kieran Bird, who has the time for Tokyo and was announced in the first round of announcements after that brilliant win in London, 3:46 dead. 3:46.78 being the time required.
Yeah, that was impressive, wasn't it? What a good swim that was.
Be interesting to see. Max Litchfield put in a good effort, just missing the final in the European Championships. Of course, 400 IM specialist, has a place in the 400 IM. He's shown some good swimming this weekend. He was good in the 200. Had a terrific battle with his brother in that one on that was that Friday morning. Seems half a lifetime ago. It was only Friday. And of course, very solid in the 400 IM, his signature event, where he won it by a country mile. And so we'll see how he does in the 400. But here they come, Charlie Hutchison.
He just pushed Jacob back, because Jacob was coming out a bit too early.
And there he is now. Yeah, big grin on his face. So Loughborough in 8 and 7. Here's another one, Will Bell, coming out into lane 6. Also Loughborough University, so lots of purple on display. There's Max Litchfield from the Loughborough National Centre. He'll have prepared meticulously, as he always does. Them two Bath National Centre swimmers, Luke Turley in 4. And Kieran Bird, who we're talking about, in 3. Stephen Milne coming out in lane 2, University of Stirling swimmer, and Joseph Dian from Millfield School goes in lane 1. He's the one junior in this field. Did a cracking 3:59 to earn his place in the senior final.
Stephen was like, I'm warm enough, it's warm enough in here, I don't need the t-shirt. Just going to come out in my bare chest.
Yep, so bit of an issue with one or two of the names there. Apologies about that on that scoreboard, but it is Luke Turley in 4, Litchfield in 5. I can assure you they are there. There we go. .354s for 3 of them last night, Bird, Turley and Litchfield. A couple of 3:56s as well, Bell and Milne.
Facilities at Loughborough, Bath and Stirling all showing their dominance here.
So a bit of slapping of backboards, just make sure it's absolutely firm and secure for the starts. And away we go. So the interesting thing, I think, here will be whether there is somebody who's going to try and gun for that 3:46.78 consideration time for the Olympics.
Luke Turley was up and breaking the surface early then, really getting into his stroke early doors.
So he just touches ahead of Max Litchfield at the 50, 26.17 against 26.34. Pretty much side by side. Stephen Milne, he started fast in the heats, of course, Olympian at Rio in this event. Goodman as well in lane 7. He's up there, not far away from the leaders, but it is Litchfield now in lane 5, first to the turn, 54.82.
Yeah, he's gone out hard on this one, showing great form, great efficiency, lovely long freestyle stroke.
I guess now one of the senior swimmers in the British team, and Well, if you wanted an example to follow, you can't do much better than Max Litchfield, can you?
No, it's so important as well. You know, when you've got a squad of athletes at Great Britain level, to have great ambassadors, great leaders within that team. You know, people who are going to hold other swimmers accountable for the standards that you expect within the team. That is so important. You know, I was very lucky to work with Chris Hoy at Cycling, who was. He was exactly that. You know, he would hold everyone in the environment accountable for the standards that we needed as a team. And I think Max is very definitely an athlete that will do that within the Olympic team.
And he's certainly showing it in the pool so far, 152.08. So really pushing this one on strongly. Around about a 57 pace there. And, well, it doesn't look like there's anybody with an appetite to follow him. His lead, 8 meters or so over a run of 4 swimmers. Milne in 2.
Yeah, they're like, nah, you can have that.
Turley in 4, Bell in 6, and Goodman in 7. But the gap between them and Max Litchfield is around about 4 seconds. And that's way too much now to get anywhere close to Max Litchfield. So this is about Max and the clock. Said did a 3:54. Comes into this meet with an entry time of 3:50. Did a 3:48 in Budapest. 2:50.05.
Decent 300 split.
It certainly is. It's a very decent split. So that 3:48 that he did in Budapest, he could be on to replicate or maybe even improve on that. Let's see what sort of sprint he'll have left in him. The race for second looks like it's between Milne and Bell. Final turn then for Max Litchfield, 3:19.28. So that was just over 29 split there. Now can he pick up the pace down this last length? Really showing great professionalism here and drive, taking this completely seriously. It doesn't matter that he's already on the plane. He wants to push this one hard. Let's see what he can do here as he comes in. What a swim, 3:47.69. Just a second away from that consideration time, but well, great stuff there. That was faster than he did by nearly a second than he did in Budapest. It was faster than he did in London by over 2 seconds. And he did it all by himself there in a really strong swim from start to finish.
Yeah, a big grin on his face at the moment. Seems to be very pleased with that. What a swim that is, 3:47.69. Incredible performance from Max Litchfield here this morning.
And for me, that's the swim of the morning so far.
Yeah, agree.
William Bell taking second, just ahead of Stephen Milne, 3:52.8 and 3:53.03. So both of them moving forward from their heat swims. So good progressions there.
I think as well, when you've represented Great Britain at a very high standard in big meets, coming here, it would be very easy to just go through the motions. But Max there showing in the last session on the last day that his processes are really important to him. The effort he puts in is important to him, leading by example and getting out to what is a world-class time.
Yes, certainly is. It'll be very interesting to see whether he does put his name forward for the 400 free in Tokyo. I guess it will depend on how it fits with the program, but you would think they would space out the 400 free from the 400 IM. And of course, he could be a player in the 4x2 relay as well. So there's quite a few things there for the leadership team to think about as to what they do there.
Yeah, definitely. And relays always complicate the issue and give you selection headaches, but nice to have. They've got so much talent in that team at the moment. It's nice to have the problem when you've got too many athletes to fit into those spots than when you're really kind of scrambling to put your team together. And we've certainly had that in the para program in the past, in the 34-point women's competitions. looking very much likely this time around that we should be able to field a 20-point relay, which is in the lower classes, which is fantastic because
has Britain done that before?
Yeah, in the past, but not recently. Certainly in Rio, it was an area where we struggled as a team in those lower classifications. But we've got Eilidh Chalice as an S3, Lyndon Longhorn as an S4. We've got Andrew Mullen as a 5. Susie Hext and Tully Kearney as 5, so more talent now in those lower classifications. So it's great to see.
Yeah, it is. And we've got 2 paraswimmers coming out here, not in the lower classifications, has to be said, both in the visual impairment classes. So Hannah Russell, who goes S12, City of Manchester Aquatics, and Abby Kane, S13 from the University of Stirling.
Yeah, Hannah, of course, the Paralympic champion in 50 freestyle, 100 backstroke, personal best of 66.0. And it's been a tough cycle for Hannah. She's had a lot of things to deal with, but she's back, and she's back looking like she's moving back towards her best, which is absolutely fantastic to see. And Abby Kane was the youngest swimmer we had on the team in Rio. What an experience for her to go there and win a silver medal. Her event has moved on since then. Still an S13 swimmer, so in the least affected visual impairment class. But she's also made moves recently and looking in great shape and coming back towards her best.
Yes, so we saw a 69 from Hannah last night, so that was pretty respectable, pretty much the same time as she did in Sheffield. So we'll see whether she can take that down to a 68 this morning. 1:14 was Abby Kane's time last night.
Yeah, certainly a 68 would be great to see from Hannah here this morning. Abby's obviously been 69 back at the games, but hasn't really been that close to that time, and she's a different athlete to what she was then. You see that often. 13-year-old girl effectively coming up through the system was able to swim a 69, and then as she's kind of developed, it's been very difficult for her to get back to that.
So through the turn, 33.14 for Hannah Russell. So good, strong first 50. 2.5 seconds up now, so she's looking clear for this. And of course, lower classification, so I don't think there's any doubt that she'll be ahead on para points as well.
Yeah, Hannah's looking good here. She's had a good block of training over the last few weeks, in very heavy training at the moment, so difficult to perhaps establish that speed that she would do when we get close to racing.
Into the final 5 is the clock coming towards that 68. I think it's just going to slip through. It does. 1:10.23. And Abby Kane coming in 1:15.55. So both of them about a second or so away from the time they did last night. Well, they'll go back to their respective training centres and refocus on the training programme.
Yeah, Abby Kane is due a classification in the next few weeks for her visual impairment, and it will be interesting to see what the outcome of that is. I think there's an acceptance that Abby's vision has deteriorated a little bit since her first classification, so it'll be interesting to see if her classification does change this time around.
We'll watch out for that. Just going back to para points, so tell you that in the women's 400 freestyle, unsurprisingly, it was Maisie Summers-Newton who ended up the winner. 8.79 para points for her time of 5:28.50. Ellie Simmons, 8.52 points for her 5:31.95. And Tony Shaw's 4:44.38 earned her 798 points. So from the para swimmers, we move to the able-bodied. We didn't have the pleasure of seeing the 2 Stirling girls last night. They withdrew, Kathleen Dawson and Cassie Wilde. Certainly opens the door for Georgia Davis to show what she can do. She did a 60.55 last night, and I'm sure she'll be looking to go under the minute this morning. Of course, don't get many more experienced athletes than Georgia, but she was just pipped out of the Olympic positions by the two Scottish girls. Here we come. We've got Ellie Turner of Perth City, who goes in lane 8. So we have a change in the lane 7, I think. That's Tatya Tostevin coming in as a late reserve. Rachel Anderson going in Loughborough University. Charlotte Evans of Loughborough in 5. Georgia Davis of Swansea University in 4. There's Katie Shanahan, City of Glasgow in 3. Sophie Shaw of Mid Sussex in 2. And Holly McGill of Heart of Midlothian in lane 1. So a nice little opportunity for Tatiana, who was named as first reserve, to come in fairly late on, take up lane 7 with, I believe that Rachel Saunders fell ill earlier this morning, so I hope she recovers quickly and gets back in the pool. She's in the juniors, had a very promising season so far, so we wish her all the best and wish Tatiana all the best with this opportunity that she now has in front of her. But I think the eyes will be on Georgia Davis in lane 4. Let's see how far she can go.
Start by Georgia. I love that technique where she doesn't drop into the water on the start and get her hands wet. She just grabs the start bar and just lowers herself in, I think, to keep her hands dry, so she's got a good grip. I think that's really interesting to see.
Yeah, sort of hold your breath almost as she goes through that first 15, because she gets herself really tight to that 50-meter marker, but always comes up on the right side of it. So, yeah, looking good here. 29.06. So can she come in under the 31 for her second leg to get under the minute? No doubt she's going to win this by a country mile. Charlotte Evans just about second from Katie Shanahan and Sophie Shaw. But let's look at Georgia here. 10 meters to go. Lots of shouting from the poolside, encouraging her to go on. The clock coming up 57.58. It's going to be tight, maybe just over the minute. 1:00.67. So good solid swim, but not quite ducking under the minute, which I'm sure she would have liked to have done, but well clear of everybody else. Katie Shanahan just coming through. Good backstroker from this neck of the woods. 1:02.29, just edging out Charlotte Evans into third place. And that was nice improvement from Katie, 1:02.8 down to 1:02.2. Came into the meet on a 1:02.9, so nice to do a PB in the heat and another one in the finals.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Trying to move it on and produce lifetime best performances where you can.
So good stuff there. And again, we've got a swimmer now who will be doing it all by himself. You'll know a fair amount about this young man, again, from the local club, City of Glasgow, Louis Lawler. S14 swimmer.
Yeah, so S14's the intellectual impairment classifications. They came back into parasport in 2010. We saw Jessica Jane Applegate winning the 200 freestyle down in London, and that classification S14 has just gone from strength to strength. You know, it's just rapid improvement in all areas, male, female, in all the events over the last few years. They started to add events now, which is great. So there's a 4x100 meter freestyle relay for the S14s, which we'll look to field a team in and hopefully be competitive. So yeah, it's going from strength to strength. And Louis is he's a lovely lad who's fairly new to the team, new to the program. Training with Daniel Brayson here, as you say, and yeah, he's a world medalist from 2019 World Championships in London.
And that was 100 backstroke, I think.
It was 100 backstroke, yeah.
So it would be interesting to see what he can do here. His strongest event, do you think? Backstroke over freestyle?
Yeah, I would say so at the moment, but I don't necessarily think it could be in the future. I think he's got opportunities in 100 free, 200 free, you know, across the board really. He's a big, tall lad. He trains incredibly well. He's just a pleasure to be around. Comes in with a smile on his face all the time. And
let's have a look. Has he got a smile on his face? Yeah, sort of. Sort of a little slight smile there as he comes in. And you can see as well, you can't see actually because it's just out of shot, but strapping physique. As you said, big tall boy. And was that physique because he's not that young, he's still a teenager. Not that young, not that old, I should say. 19-year-old this year. So you would certainly think the best is yet to come for Louis.
yeah, we've seen some nations recently starting to explore S14 a bit more that haven't touched S14 before. So the Japanese have found a few intellectually impaired athletes to work with. There's a very strong Brazilian athlete who appeared recently at the European Championships.
What about the Americans? Where are they in this?
Yeah, they don't tend to get too involved in the S14 classification at the moment. No doubt they've got some talent there for sure, but it's not something they've moved into yet.
That's odd, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny how different nations do focus on different classes. Again, the Chinese, you know, huge population of impaired people, but they don't tend to go into the intellectual impairments at all. And even one of the strongest nations, the Italians, you know, who in the physical impairment classes and certainly the lower classes dominate, they haven't really explored S14s either. So we continue to do incredibly well in the S14 classifications. We've had some brilliant athletes.
29.28 for Louis at halfway. Interesting comparing when that was just a couple of tenths slower than Georgia Davis was earlier on, so she was just over the minute. So we'll see what Louis can do here.
Yeah, around about 60 point would be good for Louis this morning if he can achieve that. His PB is 60.5.
Well, he's going to be there or thereabouts, I think, as he's coming in. The clock just coming up to the minute. Just slips over 1:01.57. Slightly faster than he was last night.
Yeah, I think he went 61.1 at trials.
So 61.5, again, not rested. You would hope that he would be able to pick some time off that by the time we get to Tokyo.
No, 61.4 at trials, so only a tenth outside that time that he did at British Prize Swimming International meet.
So good stuff from Louis there, all on his own. Again, this one we've got a B final and an A final. We again have a reserve coming in, so Elliot Clogg has picked up a little niggle and he's withdrawn, and Zach Speakman will take his place in lane 4. The Royal Wolverhampton School swimmer, youngster, 19-year-old. So it's always good when you get your opportunity, and sometimes if you get it fairly late on, it just gets that adrenaline going, doesn't it? Wow, I've got a swim which I didn't think I was going to get, so right, let's make the most of it. So we'll see whether Zach can do that. Of course, he has to take the empty lane, so on paper he'll be the slowest swimmer going in the fastest lane.
Yeah. But he won't have time to think about it, and that's interesting as well, isn't it? You know, you don't get the same amount of time to get worked up about it, which can impact on some people negatively, but for others it can be a positive.
He's got some very experienced swimmers round about him. The swimmers making their way out now, led by Swans's Liam White, who will make his way to lane 8. Full field, Robbie Hemmings of Poole in that black and yellow tracksuit there, going into lane 1. Mark Ford of City of Glasgow in 2. Jay Lelliot of City of Sheffield in 3. There is Zach Speakman of Royal Wolverhampton School in lane 4. 5 is Daniel Cross of Loughborough University. 6 also from Loughborough, Charlie Brown. Lane 7 in the red there, Scott Gibson of Edinburgh University. And lane 8, Liam White from Swansea University. 56s and 57s times here.
Yeah, all more or less on 56 from last night, with the exception of Speakman who's come in, and Liam White in lane 8.
So that means that Daniel Cross actually has the fastest time 56 dead, but only by 100th from Jane Elliott. So this, I think, will be a very competitive affair. Scott Gibson in lane 7 was second in the 50 backstroke, so you'd expect perhaps he'll go out very fast, and then maybe the others will work at him in the second half of the race. But let's see how it develops. I imagine that some of them will be looking at the 55s here. So there they go.
Interesting how starts have kind of developed since the backstroke wedge was included. So swimmers not so worried now about their feet slipping off the wall with that wedge, to kind of protect against that, and a lot more confident to be able to drive away from the wall and get more distance.
Well, this is really tight, isn't it, as they come to the all 8 swimmers pretty much together. Touch just going to Charlie Brown, 26.69 at halfway. Who's going to make the move in the second half? Bit of a push coming in from Jade Elliott in lane 3.
Liam White going well in 8.
Yes, he is. And so in 6 is Charlie Brown, the halfway leader. Maybe it's these 3, but well, there's plenty of others who are not too far back either. But I think Elliott is the one in lane 3, and he comes in and takes it in 55.54. So we're hoping for some 55s, and we got some. We got 3 of them. Elliott, Brown and Dan Cross, who finished very strongly. 56 dead for Mark Ford as well. So plenty of swimmers improving on their heat times last night. That's encouraging to see there. There's just about the whole field, I think, looking down the line there.
Yeah, Speakman as well coming in as a reserve, moved his time on again from last night.
Yeah. So, we'd need to study it a bit more carefully, but it looked to me like all 8 swimmers were faster than they were last night, so that's really good, very encouraging. So the A finalists just need to do the same. What could be easier?
Joe Litchfield, the class of the field in the A final on the 53 from last night.
Well, there's a certain Luke Greenbank going in lane 6, so it'll be interesting to see what he does.
You think he was cruising in his heat last night? I couldn't make my mind up watching him. I mean, obviously he's quality swimmer. See what he can do this morning.
Yeah. 53.3 at the Euros, so that's not to be sniffed at. Inside the Olympic consideration time, of course, he was pre-selected after his performance at Worlds in the 200 backstroke. That will be his fancied event, but we talked about it last night when I was talking with Ross Nicholas from the Welsh performance set up about the importance of the backstroke in the medley relay, and the fact that we've got Joe Litchfield now sort of nipping at the heels of Luke Greenbank, and hopefully we'll bring them both on and start to give the team some options on the backstroke leg, which we need.
Incredible as well to think that Joe's come out of that program in Cockermouth. Not Joe, sorry.
Luke has.
Luke's come out of that program in Cockermouth, and we've got a swimmer there, Jacob Leach, who's an S9 swimmer. You know, it's a brilliant pool. It's a rustic pool in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, I mean, they produce some brilliant swimmers. Yeah,
my son lives in Cockermouth, so I do know that pool quite well. And, yeah, rustic's a good word for it. A little 4-lane pool with.
It's cool though, isn't it? What a great training environment they have there.
Yeah, and it's all about mindset, isn't it? And the leadership mindset in that program is just second to none. and just seems to produce swimmer after swimmer. Fantastic stuff from the Lake District. So the lineup here: Martin Walton, University of Stirling in 1, Savi Castelli of City of Cardiff in 2, Cameron Brooker of Wickham in 3, Joe Litchfield of Loughborough National Centre in 4, Craig McNally of the University of Stirling in 5, Luke Greenbank of Loughborough National Centre in 6, Jonathan Adam of Bath National Centre in 7, and Brodie Williams, also from the Bath National Centre, goes in lane 8. So Litchfield 53.98, just a whisker outside that Olympic consideration time, 53.85 last night. McNally was pretty useful, 55.0, Brooker 55.1, and then Greenbank 55.2. You'd expect him to be faster than that this morning. He's in lane 6 there. So let's see how this one works out. Joe in the white cap, just moving up to the blocks now, and I think he'll certainly be all focused because we've just seen that great swim in the 400 free from his brother. Let's keep up the family honour here, shall we? Mr. Greenbank might have something to say about that, not to mention Craig McNally, Cameron Brooker. So away they go.
I love Luke Greenbank's start. It's just so precise the way he holds himself. Repeatable time and time and time again.
And certainly is Joe Litchfield, who has got himself into the early lead here in the white cap, maybe up by a metre. You can certainly see Greenbank in lane 6 is there or thereabouts. Jonathan Adam going well in lane 7. That looks like the top 3 at the halfway mark, turning 25.99. Nice turn skills from Litchfield as well, and well, he is taking this by the scruff of the neck here. Up in lane 1, Martin Walton going well, the winner in the 50 backstroke. Will he fade though in these closing stages? Nobody's going to catch Litchfield, I don't think. He is up by 2-3 meters as he comes in. It's all about the clock now. 53.75. He's a 10th inside the Olympic consideration time. So that gives the selectors something else to think about there. Joe Litchfield already had a place, but that's just saying, don't forget me in the 100 backstroke. McNally takes second, just ahead of Brodie Williams, with Luke Greenbank. Well, thought he might have been a bit faster than that this morning, 55.05. It was faster than last night, but, well, slightly surprised maybe not to see him in the 54s, but well done, Joe Litchfield. Yeah,
it's a great swim.
That's another swim of the morning. So Litchfields have my 2 swims of the morning so far.
They're doing well as a family, and definitely appreciated by the National Performance Director, Chris Spice, there, who was giving a double thumbs up after that one. So.
Yeah, with good reason, because just to have those options, I think, is so valuable now too, who have given themselves the chance to compete in the 100 back individually and a chance to challenge for that all-important relay slot to join the likes of P.T. Guy and Scott in their quest for glory.
Yeah, we spoke about it before, didn't we? That confidence that comes in the team when you see teammates hitting times and more of your teammates hitting those consideration times for the team, and you think, yeah, I want a piece of that, I can do that. And suddenly, you know, that psychological barrier that, oh, those times are really difficult to hit goes away, and you see more and more athletes do it, and it's just great to see, and it's brilliant to be part of British swimming at the moment, this revival, and how well we're doing across para and diving and Olympic swimming, and even, you know, the artistic girls starting to really come back and show some great form as well. So it's, you know, it's a great moment to be part of British swimming.
Yes, it is indeed. We now move to women's 200 breaststroke, and you can see there Maya Hall of Ellesmere College making her way out to the blocks, and there is Loughborough University's Megan Morrison. She'll go to lane 7. In the green of Millfield, Lily Booker, lane 6. Now the big 2, Abby Wood of Loughborough National Centre, coming out to lane 5, and beside her will be Molly Renshaw, also from the Loughborough National Centre. Lane 3, Cara Hanlon, Edinburgh University. Hannah Miley from Aberdeen Performance in lane 2. And Katie Robertson from Edinburgh University goes in lane 1. So you would think this will be all about Molly and Abby in the centre lanes. Both have booked their place in this event in the Olympics. Renshaw set a British record at the trials, winning it 2:20.89, but Abby Wood, 2:21.69, was only 8/10 behind her. So this one, of course, wouldn't expect them to hit probably anything particularly close to that time, because that was all about getting the times. They've got that is boxes ticked. So now it'll be about process and preparation and final chance to compete before they go into their last block of training before Tokyo.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Duncan. And just to expand on that a little bit, when you know that you've got a place on the plane, you're going to change your training quite dramatically to refocus on building that valuable aerobic base that you need, because that's the base of your pyramid upon which you're going to build speed and power to be able to swim fast. And that's why we see those drop-offs in time, athletes coming away from their best times when they get back into the heavy training. And obviously there's a level of fatigue in there that's constant all the time when you're in heavy training, that stops you from being able to both neurologically and physiologically swim as fast as you could.
This is what you sort of feel. It's the 200 breaststroke specialist Molly Renshaw against the great all-rounder Abby Wood, and slightly contrasting styles. I think that swim that Molly Renshaw shows here just made for 200 breaststroke.
Yeah, so efficient.
1:09.12. So she's opened up a lead of about 8/10.
Great streamline off the wall. Terrific example to any young swimmers watching.
Third place, Cara Hanlon, another swimmer who's made good progress across the 3 different breaststroke distances this season. And she'll certainly, I think, be starting to focus on securing a place in the Scottish Commonwealth Games team next year. But it's going to be Renshaw and Wood, and it looks like at the moment that's going to be the order, 9/10 between them. So that was around a 36.5. So something in the low 220s. Should, I think, be faster than they were last night, 223 and 224. And
Abby's coming back here.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. We might just have a race on. I thought maybe called it a bit early, but I think Molly is going to hold on. She is up by about a metre in the last 2 or 3 and takes the win in 2:23.15. So half a second improvement for her. Abby 2:24.15, so exactly a second back, and she was slightly inside her time as well. Cara Hanlon taking third, 2:28.82, also nicking a couple of tenths off her time from last night. So swimmers seem to be getting used to this morning finals thing. We're seeing, I think, today probably more improvements from heats to finals than we've seen in either of the 2 days. I don't know whether, I don't have any evidence really to support that, but that's the impression I've had. I don't know whether you'd agree, Chris.
Yeah, I think so. I think anecdotally it does feel like that, and it is that mindset of how do you get switched on in the morning. And
so, of course, we saw that superb swim from Molly Renshaw in Budapest, winning the European Championships, and Abby in that final as well. So real prospects there for Tokyo, do you think?
Oh God, you got to hope so, haven't you? Yeah, but what a talent, you know, what a world-class field that is in that event. So incredibly difficult. So
yeah, you think Lily King probably is the one that they've all got to try and beat.
Yeah, you would say so. But you know, there's a lot of training to do, and this is the thing about this year. You just don't know what's happening across the world and where people are at in their training and what training consistency they've had. And you know, I do think it will be a games that's harder to predict than any games we've ever had before, and that's exciting, I think, because you know, it's not going to be as predictable. You know, we're in a great place. We've got time. We've got good training consistency. They've got some brilliant camp opportunities coming up before they fly and before they get to the holding camp in Yokohama. We looked at that pool for our training for the games. Decided it wasn't right for us, but it's an amazing facility, and I know the Olympic team will fare really, really well there. So you know, everything goes in their favour. And I think the other thing that I think is really interesting is that we've run meets now in this country, and we've run them all very, very safely under COVID procedures as prescribed by DCMS and the governments. And we've been very rigorous with that, and our athletes are now very used to training in that environment and racing in that environment. And that'll be the same in Tokyo. You know, they'll find exactly the same circumstances, because what we know for definitely is the Japanese authorities are, you know, they're very regimented. They're very strict on the way that they work in this environment. So I think it's a competitive advantage for us, because there'll be other nations there that perhaps been a little bit more relaxed in their preparation. You know, they've not been so up on the hand hygiene or the mask wearing. When they get into that Olympic environment, it's going to be really tough for them, because it's going to be quite different. But we'll be used to it, and I think it'll be a competitive advantage for both the Olympic team and the Paralympic team.
So have those protocols been published as to exactly what each team's going to have to do? Yeah,
more or less. Yeah, there's I mean, there's still quite a lot of detail around how things are going to happen to be established, but they've published these things called the playbooks, which is how for officials and for teams they want you know, certain standards of behaviour and things to do, the COVID testing, the hygiene protocols, those kind of things, the way that they're going to use a track and trace app within the village, and all those things. So yeah, we're just working through all that at the moment to make sure that it fits with what we do, that we maintain the high standards that we've maintained all the way through, and that our athletes are very, very comfortable working in that environment. And it's almost easy to forget that it's a Paralympic Games or an Olympic Games, and for some of our guys it will be, you know, their only opportunity to go to an Olympics or a Paralympic Games. So athlete experience is really important, and that's something we're focused a lot on at the moment.
So men's 200 breaststroke now. This is the B final, and they're at the blocks ready to go. Liam Davis of Plymouth Leander in 1, Bradley Newman of City of Cardiff in 2, Jason Greenow, Bath University in 3, Eugene Cook of Edinburgh University in 4, James McFadden of Loughborough University in 5, George Smith of Ellesmere College in 6, George Clough, University of Stirling in 7, and Max Hagan of the City of Glasgow in lane 8. 2:18s up to 2:22s, the times from last night. Fastest, the Irishman based in Edinburgh, Eugene Cook, 2:18.42. From the west of Ireland, previously coached by someone well known in Scottish circles, John Sharanek, Mark Sharanik's dad. He's now based in Limerick, and Cook was one of his boys, now has moved over to Edinburgh, where coincidentally John used to coach, along with Chris Jones and Matt Trodden. 30.95, and it's a good start in lane 2, Bradley Newman of City of Cardiff, finalist in the British trials. 2:16 he did there, 2:19 last night, and he's got a lead of a metre or so at halfway, 1:05.69. McFadden now in second, George Smith still pretty tight behind Bradley. Maybe it is James McFadden who's pushing on to try and bring it back and get back to Bradley. if any of the others can also get close. It looks like they might do.
Closing down a little bit on Bradley, but he's got the lead with 50 to go.
141.60. Now, is there a late charge from somebody out of the pack here? They are definitely starting to swallow Bradley up now, led by the Irishman, Eugene Cook, who is coming through very nicely down this last 50. Can anyone else go with him? Possibly James McFadden in lane 5. On the other side, Jacob Greenow in 3, but I think it's going to be Cook bringing this one in. Really managed that one nicely and takes the win in 2:17.39, a second inside his time from last night. So good a swim from the Irishman there.
That win was set up on that final turn. He accelerated into the final turn. Great streamline off the wall. He probably moved 2-3 meters on the pack in that final turn, and that gave him the momentum for that final 50. And yeah, great win there.
Greenow in second, McFadden third, 2:18.47, 2:19.18, and the long-time leader slipped down to 6th in the end. So we'll have to have a wee chat, I think, with the Cardiff coaching crew, just to review that and just think about it, because possibly just took it out too hard and too fast. Now we've got a treat though, 200 breaststroke, and it's the big two. In 200 breaststroke terms, we'll be up against each other in lanes 4 and 5 with some real talent around them. That we talked a little bit in previous commentaries, the fact that when you think about PT, Wilby and Murdoch as the big three in men's breaststroke swimming, but there's some real good talent that if they weren't there, we'd be singing their praises as well.
Yeah, totally. It's just an embarrassment of riches across the breaststroke events and distances, both on the male and the female side, and it's fantastic to see.
A couple of very promising juniors will be going in the semi-final as well in the outside lanes. We'll keep an eye on them. William Ellington in lane 1 from Millfield, and Northampton's Harvey Freeman, who I think already has times for Rome. He will go in lane 8. But here come the swimmers, and that is Harvey, Northampton swimmer, coming to lane 8. Another Edinburgh University Irishman, Nick Quinn, goes in 7. 6 is Adam Chillingworth of Plymouth Leander. Now here is James Wilby of Loughborough National Centre. And going into the fastest lane this time, Ross Murdoch from the University of Stirling. There's Greg Butler of Loughborough. Kyle Booth from the City of Cardiff. He'll take up lane 2, and William Ellington of Millfield. No doubt where he's come from. Millfield splashed over his t-shirt there. Proudly representing his school here in Glasgow.
Yeah, I was going to say it's great to see Northampton doing so well again. Obviously, the director of swimming, Jackie Marshall's just joined the para program as our head of performance pathway, and Andy Sharp in there now as the new director of swimming, and they go from strength to strength, and it just shows that integration within the programs, having the para swimmers and the able-bodied swimmers swimming alongside each other, can work incredibly well. We're seeing more and more of that now, and it's brilliant, because we just want quality coaches working with our athletes, and we don't want any coach to feel scared about working with a para swimmer. It's just the same process that you would go through with an Olympic swimmer. You have to adapt to what you have in front of you. And yeah, that's giving great credibility to what we do, and it's really driving us forward, having these quality coaches working with our swimmers.
So 2:10 for Murdoch last night, 2:12 for Wilby. Was both on 2:07s in London. And Ross Murdoch, of course, the British record holder, set here on that famous day in 2014, where Scotland got a historic 1-2 with him and Michael Jameson. I was privileged to be at that one as well. And I can tell you that that stand opposite, I thought was going to collapse down into the rooms, but underneath the amount of stamping and racketing that was going on in it.
Yeah, I was privileged enough to be here for that as well. It was an incredible race in the temporary stand built behind the blocks where they're starting here this week. Brilliant to see. And, great to see Ross back to his absolute best and swimming as we know he can.
Nip and tuck then between Wilby and Murdoch, and going with them, Adam Chillingworth, certainly one of those that we would be praising up to the rooftops, or should be, and Butler as well in there. So this time it is Murdoch by 0.3, 1:03.16 at the halfway mark. So Wilby was the faster of the two in London, and then in Budapest it was Murdoch's turn. Who's going to get the tie-break in Glasgow?
Oh, it's tight. It's so tight. It looks like Murdoch, and then Wilby comes back at him during the length.
And it's great that these two can just bring each other on like that.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Find this love of 200 breaststroke swimming.
There's nothing between them. 600ths on the final turn.
Let's see how hard they push this down this last length. Will they want to race this?
Pride and the ego kicks in. It's like, oh, who wants it?
Well, it looks like Wilby wants it. He's just edging this one now. Murdoch's got some work to do in the final 15, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think this is going to be James Wilby's race here. He's up by a metre as they come in. A fast finish from Greg Butler as well, but it's Wilby who comes in to take it in 2:10.44. He improved by over a second and a half on what he did last night. Second place, Ross Murdoch in 2:11.57. His time just slipped a bit from last night. Just maybe didn't quite have the appetite to go for it down that last 50. And then Greg Butler taking third in 2:12.63, over a second faster than he was last night. So some great swimming. Chillingworth as well took 2:14.7 down to a 2:13.9. So I think he can be pretty happy with that. And then looking at the juniors, Freeman 2:17.26 and Ellington 2:17.53. Certainly Freeman taking 3/4 of a second off his heat time, and William Ellington pretty much the same time. So good swims all round there, and showing obviously strength at the top, but also there's signs that there's going to be juniors who are going to be knocking on the door in the next few years.
Yeah, and Wilby's another one of those that we spoke about before, isn't he? A great senior ambassador. Was he 27, 28 years old now? Consummate professional, real leader within the team, and exactly the type of character you need when you're going into a games environment to drive the team on.
And when you think, really, it's not that many years ago when he sort of really hit the top, and he's an example. I mean, there's a few others you could name as well of athletes who have kept at it, kept pushing away, and then suddenly something's happened, and the sort of age of 23, 24, he hits the big time. And of course, lots of swimmers have hung up their goggles by that time, but not James, and he's reaping the reward of that now. Yeah,
isn't that interesting? In certain sports, your athlete maturity isn't even coming into fruition until 27, 28, 29 years old. You've got that experience under your belt. You're loving what you do, and yet you're right, a lot of swimmers wind up their career and hang up their goggles at 22, 23 years old because they've been at it since they were 5, 6 years old, and it's a long time, and it can be a lonely sport, swimming. It's a lot of time staring at that black line on the bottom of the pool. It takes a particular type of mentality, but it's great to see athletes, senior athletes, really enjoying their swimming way into their mid to late 20s and thriving as a result.
And having these national centres where they can sort of come together and sort of create a bit of a collegiate focus must help in that. So in Loughborough and in Bath and in Stirling, and for the para-swimmers in Manchester, that must help a lot, I would think, because they're not the sort of abnormality, going to the pool in these crazy times, all smelling of chlorine and all the rest of it. As they're among their peers, they're just this motivation will grow and grow.
Yeah, I think balance is so important as well. Balance in lifestyle. We've spoken a lot about this recently with big questions around whether the Games is going to happen or not, and it's devastating when it's something you've been training for, well, 5 years now, to think that there's a chance that it might not happen. I do believe it will happen now. But the important thing there is to have balance in your life. It's to not negate all the other elements of your life, your schooling, your work, your friends, your family. You have to have that balance, because then ultimately if that big goal you've been aiming for goes away for whatever reason, you've got other things to fall back on, and you're just happier as an individual because it's not all eggs in one basket. And I think a lot of athletes are kind of scared to admit that. Like they almost expect that the federation will, expects me to be fully focused on my swimming and only focused on my swimming to the extraction of all others. And it's not the case. We know that our athletes that have a balanced lifestyle thrive because they're really enjoying their life and they're swimming equally.
So last opportunity for the para women here, 100 freestyle. We've got 4 swimmers going here. Grace Harvey swimming S6 from Hoddesdon in lane 3. Tony Shaw back in the pool from Aberdeen Performance swimming S9 in 4. Abby Kane, a second swim for her as well from University of Stirling, swimming S13, and Ellie Chalice of Clacton swimming S3 in lane 6. So again, we've got varying classifications. As far as the pool is concerned, Tony Shaw significantly the fastest, but this again will be swimming against their personal targets and their personal objectives.
Yeah, so 3 swimmers here from the National Performance Centre in Manchester, in O'Connell, Harvey and Chalice, and then Tony Shaw from Aberdeen. 3, a 6, a 7 and a 9. Grace Harvey's done really well for us over the last 12, 18 months, kind of settled into the regime at the National Centre and combining her studies at University of Manchester with training, and she's really thriving now, producing some great performances. Tony Shaw leading this one out, as we would expect from an S9 swimmer. Turns in 30.84. Grace Harvey 36.7 and a 39.6 from Leah O'Connell.
So with the screen focusing on Tony, 103.51, has done did a 63.47 at the British Para International. So let's see if she can go inside that here. 103.83, so just 3/10 away from where she was last night. That's been a bit of a theme for Tony. Grace then coming in 1:15.68, so she's inside by half a second on her time. And Leah O'Connell, 1:27.32 for her.
Again, a little bit slower from last night, and then just waiting for Ellie Chalice to come in. We're in the S3 swimmer, world medalist, 2019 World Championships in London.
1:55.30 her British record. Really pushing it hard in there, and that looks to me like a new British record there, 1:54.90. Yeah, not for the first time this week she's set a record, so excellent stuff from her.
I mean, she's just really going from strength to strength. She was only training 2-3 times a week going into the World Championships in 2019, but now a National Centre swimmer, training regularly, got that consistency of training. And a fascinating athlete to work with. We've got our biomechanists working with her because obviously, in terms of her limb deficiency, she doesn't have a lot of surface area to apply force to the water. So, that's where coaches have to kind of think a little bit more outside the box of, how, from what we traditionally know about swimming, how do we make this S3 swimmer with less, less area to produce force in? How do we make her swim faster?
Yeah, so clearly it's paying dividends because she just seems to be getting faster and faster every time she hits the pool.
Yeah, it's great to see, and we've got that strength in, we've got that strength in the women's side now. What we need to work on as a program is developing the men's side more. When you went back to Rio, we did well between S10 and S7. Mikey Jones, and Joseph Craig, and John Fox, and Matt Wiley and Lewis White. We had some great swimmers in there, but classification has dealt us a fairly difficult hand over the last few years, and through retirements and people moving away from the sport because they're not competitive anymore. Ollie Hind being a great example of that. Someone was very dominant in the S8 class, but unfortunately moved to the S9 class where he's racing against athletes with lesser impairments than him. So we've almost been decimated across S7 to S10, and that's definitely an area of focus. And certainly we're getting Jackie Marshall, who's our new head of performance pathway, to look at, and can we fast track athletes in those areas and hopefully get back to where we've been in the past in terms of having strength in depth in those men's classifications.
Yep, things are constantly changing, isn't it? You've got to constantly find that new generation. Here we have the B final for the women's 100 freestyle. We've got Sophie Freeman in 1 from Plymouth Leander, Kate Clifton of City of Sheffield in 2, Harriet Rogers from Newcastle in 3, Erin Little of Mount Kelly in 4, Tamarin Van Selm of Millfield in 5, Katie Goodburn of Warren de Baths in 6, Lucy Grieve of South Ayrshire in 7, and Beatrice Farley, Plymouth Leander in lane 8. 56s to 58s last night from the swimmers. Good start from Lucy Grieve, the fly specialist, going freestyle here in lane 7 beside Katie Goodburn, but now beginning to move up is Erin Little in lane 4. Was a winner in the British Summer Championships here back in 2019 for her age group. Just 16 now, so she should have been a 14-year-old back then. Can she hold off Tamarin Van Selm? Another really promising youngster, 17-year-old now, went to Budapest, performed very strongly. And is she going to edge it? I think she is. So Tamarin from Millfield takes the win in 56.25. Good improvement of half a second on her time. Erin Little 56.65 and Katie Goodburn third 57.18. Quite a young field in that B final. I think the oldest was only 18. So we've just been looking at the future of British sprint freestyle.
Yeah, it looks good. That, and Tamarin was very strong on that last 25. She really pulled away from Erin. I think that was the difference for her, just that speed endurance for the last 25 meters.
It's not quite like the 50, is it, where it's just head down and batter away. You've got to be a bit more subtle, I guess, in the 100.
Yeah. You don't want to spend all your pennies in the first 50D on that one. It's going to hurt.
So a final still to come. I'm hearing that Freya Anderson is opting out of this one. She was scheduled to go in lane 3. We'll confirm that when they come out, but that's what I'm hearing. Of course, Anna Hopkin has been in blistering form recently, and including a wonderful bronze medal in the European Championships. And Freya have the slots for the 100 freestyle individual slots. There's also, of course, that interesting question about the 4x1 relay with the terrific gold medal in Budapest. Of course, the selection team haven't confirmed that that's going to Tokyo yet. We'll be watching that with great interest in the next week or so.
They like to keep us on our tenterhooks, don't they?
Quite right, too.
I'm the same.
So, there'll be a number of these swimmers who will be very interested in what they decide on that. And I guess good strong swims would help here. to just make up their minds that that's a team that should go. I'll be surprised if they don't go, I must admit, but what do I know? I think we're just about to see the swimmers come on now. Alicia Wilson coming in to take up position in lane 8, representing Guildford City. She's training in America now. Evie Davis of Bromley in lane 7. 6 is Emma Russell of University of Stirling. So both Evie and Emma part of that team in Budapest, as of course was Lucy Hope, who comes into lane 5 representing the University of Edinburgh, and Anna Hopkin in lane 4 from Loughborough National Centre. So just looking at lane 3 does look to be empty, so we then have lane 2, Isabella Hindley of Brompton, and lane 1, Candice Hall from Loughborough University. So 7 go in this final. Shame not to see Freya here, I must admit, but you can understand that at this stage it's more important perhaps just to get back to business in Bath.
Yeah, it's such a balance, and it's such a difficult thing for a coach and an athlete to discuss together on, you know, do I expose myself to another race, or, you know, do I take the opportunity to rest up so that I can get back into quality training tomorrow morning? It's some difficult decisions that need to be made.
So you certainly would think that Anna Hopkin would be a fairly hot favourite here, but Lucy Hope, I think, might come out pretty fast here and try and push Anna just as hard as she can, and then it'll be interesting to see what the likes of Emma Russell and Evie Davis can do in lane 6 and 7, the 2 younger swimmers.
Yeah, Evie Davis only 17, isn't she, I think, so.
So in lane 4, the distinctive style of Anna Hopkin. Good start from Isabella Hindley as well in lane 2. And then you do have Lucy Hope in 5, I think just now moving into 2nd, and not far back from Hopkin. You can see it's about a metre at the turn, 25.60 and 26.08.
Straight arm recovery is not for everyone, but
works for Anna.
It definitely works for Anna. She uses it to great effectiveness.
And was must have got probably, well, at least half a metre off Lucy in that turn. Lucy trying to bring it back, but she'll not get there. It'll be interesting to see what sort of time she can post, though. But Anna Hopkin comfortably in first, 53.56 for her. Nice improvement again, 7/10 up, and just 3/10 away from the time she was entered on. So that was a pretty impressive swim, that. And she made it look, well, easy would be the wrong thing to say completely, but
certainly look comfortable.
Yeah, 54.84 for Lucy Hope. So again, improved from heats to finals by half a second. Isabella Hindley seeing off the youngsters to take third, 55.25, with Davis 55.44 and Russell 55.57. Anna Hopkins having a wonderful season, isn't she? And let's just hope she can take that on to Tokyo and climax there, and certainly gives us great hopes for that 4x1, assuming that it goes.
It's got to, hasn't it?
Surely.
Surely.
I mean, ranked there or thereabouts for a medal.
Relays are strange, aren't they? You know, it's very difficult to know what everyone else in the world has got and where they'll be. But you know, you've got to be in it to win it, and sometimes you've got to gamble. And
yeah, that doesn't feel like a big gamble to me.
No, it's not, is it? It's not. You're right.
But we've got to wait. We've got to wait until they make their judgments. So one more para race and 2 more able-bodied races before we're done with the seniors. Of course, we still have a junior session to come this afternoon, so we hope you'll join us for that 1:45 start. It's been great to have the juniors back swimming competitively for pretty much all of them. It's that first opportunity to do that ahead of the Festival of Sport that we touched on earlier, and certainly a good yardstick for the ones who've been able to come up to Glasgow this weekend, just to see where they're at and what effects the break has done. Of course, a lot of them have developed physically in the period they've been out of the water, and so we've seen some very encouraging swims. But here we go then, the last of our para races, and we've got Lyndon Longhorn making his first appearance of the morning, just about to come out. There's Stephen Clegg there and Chap Milne, and then Lyndon Longhorn will make his way out. There he is, another S4 swimmer who has been rewriting the record books this weekend. So he goes in lane 1 for Derwent's side. Chap Milne of Dundee City Aquatics in 2, swimming S14. Return to the water from Stephen Clegg, S12 swimmer from Edinburgh University in 3. Louis Lawler, seen him already. He goes S14 in 4 with Tom Hamer beside him from Burnley. And another S14 swimmer, Conor Morrison, mainly known for breaststroke, but he goes in lane 6 for University of Aberdeen. And Will Perry, the S6 swimmer, goes for Northampton. You were talking about that Northampton program earlier, Chris, and Will Perry, a good member of that team.
Yeah, Will's kind of new to our thinking at the moment, and having a 20-point relay again, that's another opportunity for Will to come through and shine. So somebody that we're now working a bit more closely with as a program.
So it should be a good race here also between Stephen Clegg and Louis Lawler and Tom Hamer, all 54, 55 sort of territory.
Yeah, and the 100 freestyle is now more important to the S14 athletes, because it's not an event they get to race at the games, but there is a 4x100 meter freestyle relay. So times posted in events like this are important, because they help to inform selection for that relay when we don't have the 100 free in the games to pick from.
So at the turn, it's Stephen Clegg turning first, 26.01 for the S12 athlete. Is the British record holder at S12, 53.72.
It's a great race between Louis Lawler and Tom Hamer here. Louis was leading, but Tom's just coming through, showing his speed, endurance, and it's going to be right on the touch. He's going to get it between Lawler and Hamer. I think it's just going to be Hamer.
So Clegg first to touch, 54.29. Then that S14 race did go to Hamer by 1500s, 54.46 against 54.61.
Great race.
Yep, so Tom Hamer taking a second off his heat swim. Came in 53.47, so not too far away. Why isn't there an 100 freestyle in the S14? That seems a bit bizarre, particularly when there's a relay.
Yeah, I think officially it's because the World Para Swimming need to feel very confident that the impairment that you have affects your ability to deliver the race, which is why the 200 is in, because there's a clear pacing element to the 200 freestyle that perhaps isn't there in 100. But we have 100 back, we have 100 fly, we have 100 breaststroke. I can't see that it'll be long before 100 freestyle becomes a Paralympic event for those S14 swimmers.
So just looking at that, Lyndon Longhorn there completing the field 140.44, so just outside the swimming times that he has done in the past, but in faster than he was last night. 117 for Will Perry, again just outside his heat swim. So the full.
I think Lyndon is in a hole. we might say he's recently struggling to get out of the pool. Yeah, I can do it. I'll try him out. There's a grin on his face. His arms are tired. He's recently gone back to, training more consistently and heavy training. He's up from 2 sessions a week to nearly 7 sessions a week now, I think. And I think it's taking its toll on Lyndon this week.
So nice to get back in the chair.
And that's the other thing that people probably don't understand about the chair users is when you don't get much opportunity when you're a chair user to rest your arms. Swimmers when they're resting, they don't move their arms at all. They're just recovering all the time. But when you're a chair user and you use it for transfer and for propulsion in your chair, those arms never get a rest. So getting that balance right of training and recovering is really challenging for the chair users.
Yeah, I can understand that quite a challenge. So 2 more races, B final followed by A final in the men's 100 freestyle. We're expecting 5 swimmers to come out for the B final. That's the lineup. Archie Goodburn of Loughborough University will go in 2. Carl Boyek of Edinburgh University in 3. Empty Lane in 4. Dan Jones from Swansea University in 5. Callum Jarvis of Bath National Centre in 6. Cameron Brooke Clark of City of Sheffield in 7. '51s and '52s, the times here. Daniel Jones, 51.42, but Boyek 51.50 and Jarvis 51.64, because Callum Jarvis has been named on the Olympic team as part of the 4x2 setup. So 100, maybe slightly short distance for him. We'll see how he does. We're working on his speed here.
I must admit, I've got a bit of beard envy in this race. Jones and Jarvis both sporting some excellent facial hair, which unfortunately I'm not able to grow myself.
I think that's probably an overrated achievement, to be able to grow a beard. Means you have to shave all the time. So Goodburn, Boyek, Jones, Jarvis and Brooks Clark signing off their weekend. And it is Daniel Jones, I think, just has the advantage, although there's plenty of swimmers around about him.
Brooks Clark has started strongly here.
Yeah, just behind Jones, touches 24.29. In fact, Jarvis just in second by 500ths from Brooks Clark. And Welshman Daniel Jones looking to try and hold off his Welsh colleague Callum Jarvis. It's going to be tight between the two of them. They'll be looking to be a part of our Welsh relay team, you would think, in Birmingham.
Jarvis takes it.
He does, 50.93. 7/10 faster than he was last night. Jones 51.06, also faster. Boyek 51.38, faster as well. I think this proves my point that they are swimming faster this morning than they were last night. And they have been doing it quite consistently this morning. So well done, guys. 50.93, the winning time there. One more race to go. So we seem to have lost a few swimmers off the scoreboard there. But, that was the top 3. I can tell you Goodburn 52.15 and 52.40 as well. So the final race. No Duncan Scott in this one. He took the evening off last night. Get back to Stirling. But we do have Jacob Whittle, who was scorching last night, 48.75. Matt Richards, 14.982. And that's going to be a good lineup, I would think. Stephen Milne, Jay Lelliott, Ed Mildred, he had a good 50.53. Thomas Watkin, 50.50 last night as well. So how many swimmers, what's your prediction of who can get under the 50 mark here? You certainly put your money on Whittle and Richards. Can any of the others join them?
Yeah, hopefully. Maybe Stephen Milne as well. Let's go with those 3.
Okay.
Under 50.
getting you on unfamiliar territory with these able-bodied guys.
I am. I'm massively out of my depth. I'm very worried that the viewers are. The viewers are like, who is this guy talking about Olympic swimming?
So talk about getting the athletes out of their comfort zone. So why not do the same to performance directors?
Definitely.
So they're on their way out now. So Harry Constantine will go in lane 1. Thomas Watkin of City of Sheffield in 2. Stephen Milne of University of Stirling in 3. Jacob Whittle of Daventio in 4. Matt Richards from the Bath National Centre in 5. Jay Lelliott of City of Sheffield in 6. Ed Mildred of Northampton in 7. And Thomas Flower of Richmond Dales in lane 8. So 48.7 from Jacob Whittle. Last night, 49.8, Matt Richards. The Olympic spots have been taken. But there's still a little matter of the 4x1 team, and in particular, adding to the depth there, Matt Richards, of course, has one of those 2 spots, having pushed Duncan Scott all the way in London. And so we'll see what he can do here.
What time did Matt do
in 5
in London?
Matt Richards set a new Welsh record, 48.23 in London. I'd be very surprised if he hits 48 here, but well, you never know. Might 48 high maybe. So Whittle in 4, Richards in 5, Mildred off to a good start in lane 7, Constantine up at the top of your screen, going well, but it does look like Jacob Whittle just starting to push on now.
Mildred's gone out very hard in 7.
Yes, he has. He's, well, turning actually in 5th place. Constantine in 2nd. 23.78 for Whittle, though, leading the way here. Started to get into his stride. Matt Richards now beside him in lane 4, in lane 5 rather, moving up to 2nd, and he is closing in now on Whittle. Has he got enough pull to catch him? I don't think he has. It's going to be Jacob Whittle winning the last race of the day. 48.55 for him. Couple of tenths inside the time that he did last night. That was a good strong swim there, and that will give the selectors something to think about. I think he already has a place in the team, but certainly staking his claim in the 4x100 there. 49.20 for Matt Richards, so 0.6 improvement from last night. It was just the 2 getting under the 50 seconds in the end. Your tip, Stephen Milne, just slipping by there.
Just outside.
Ed Mildred very close, 50.16 in 3rd place.
Yeah, he'll have his sights on Rome now when he World Juniors.
Yes, certainly will. I would think he will be a very good prospect in Rome. Some of the swims that he's done both in London and here this weekend, I think, are setting him up very nicely for those European Juniors. Again, that will be an interesting event, I would think, because swimmers will be at different stages of preparation. Hopefully they'll all be in peak condition by the time they get to Rome. But that's it for the morning, Chris. It's flown by.
It has. Thanks very much for having me.
Yes, it's been a delight. Swim of the morning?
It's going to have to be an able-bodied swimmer. Max Litchfield.
Yeah, certainly Max and Joe, for me. Wouldn't like to separate them. Both very, very good indeed. 400 free for Max and that backstroke from Joe Litchfield. But, well, lots and lots of encouragement, I think, from these last 3 days. And,
Definitely.
of course, we will now not see our swimmers going to Tokyo for both the Olympics and the Paralympics in competition in Great Britain. So we wish them all the luck. Chris, we wish you all the very best in the preparations for the Paralympics.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning. But for now, I'm Duncan McKinnell, and from myself and Chris, we'll wish you a very good morning. Don't forget, we're back at 1:45 for one last session. See you then.
whatever your day holds. You need a breakfast that helps you get up and go. Up.
And go, go, go.
Up.
And go.
A delicious breakfast shake made with oats and milk. High in fibre, high in protein, high in calcium. Start right with Up and Go. The official breakfast partner of British Swimming. Find us in the cereal aisle.
Sim-only plans? There are always so many tempting options. So you jump headfirst into a long contract, which keeps you locked in for 12 months.
Somebody let me out!
At Labara, we offer great value plans and total flexibility. You can get 10 gigs of data, unlimited UK minutes and texts, and 100 international minutes for just £10 a month. And you can change or cancel anytime.
Now I feel free.
Buy now at labara.co.uk.
Attention, please. Here's something I bet you didn't know. Not all supplements are created equal. At HealthSpan, our omega-3 oil is sustainably sourced from the South Pacific Ocean. We find our turmeric in the southern slopes of India. And our cod liver oil comes from the cold, crisp seas off Greenland. We work hard to seek out the best ingredients for our supplements, because that's the HealthSpan way. We're healthspan.co.uk. Vitamins and supplements in-store or direct to your door.
The latest in tech suit innovation. Frictionless fiber construction. Surface lift technology. ENDO compression cage. Seamless exo shell. Tier Vinzo. Battleborn.